Waiting for it to turn. There we go. And we are live. So welcome to another Sunday stream. As you can see, Marie has agreed to join us. So we've got the Notion Nerds and Marie. So it's definitely going to be a fun one this week. So for those of you that are new to the stream, haven't seen the stream, what we're going to do is we're going to talk all about Notion. We'll probably bounce between all of our spaces, go backwards and forwards. If you have any questions, there is a form in the description below if you have a longer question that doesn't quite fit in chat. But I will try and keep up as best as I can. When you're watching on the replay, I will put timestamps in at the end, but give me a couple of hours to go through the video because I need to re-watch the stream and put the timestamps in because I tried doing it live, but yeah, that didn't work out. Yeah. So Marie, do you want to introduce yourself to the people that somehow don't know you?
Hello, I'm Marie Poulin. I am Notion's #1 fan. Maybe we can argue about that. Who's Notion's biggest fan? But yeah, I've been using Notion for, I don't know, two-ish years, and did a webinar about it, last year sometime, and things kind of exploded. And I had no idea how many people were that excited about Notion, and it kind of took over my life, as probably Danny and Jonathan can attest, something pretty similar. So I love teaching people how to use it. I love working with it, monetizing it in interesting ways. I just love seeing the templates that are coming out of Notion. So I just get really excited to see what creative possibilities are emerging. So yeah, careful when you ask me questions about Notion. I could talk your ear off.
Well, that's exactly what we are here to do.
Yeah. Hope you got your diapers.
Oh, this is going to be so fun. Torin, good to see you. Homesick, good to see you. I was actually debating about saying hi to Homesick before we started, but I thought I'd wait until we started. Brigitte, good to see you as well. So everyone seems to be joining in. We're getting a bit of an audience. Jonathan, you haven't said much yet. I'll leave you to add some words in before we go into Marie's space.
Oh, I'm just ready for Marie's space. Let the admins know.
Guys, the pressure.
Gail's made a great comment. I'm trying to prepare myself for the mind-blowing experience this is going to be.
Come on, you guys have seen my space. You know the deal. What do you want to see?
Well, we've had a couple of comments in previous weeks where people were saying they need to get the drinks in before the stream starts. So
yes.
We'll see what comments come in about halfway through. Right. So as long as I can read them, we're okay. So Marie, your screen is now visible to everyone.
Cool. So yeah, this is the Oki Doki landing page. This is, I would say this is probably the page that goes through the most subtle changes. I'm often kind of reworking and kind of restructuring this a little bit. And you might be familiar with, if you saw Danny on the office hours, this is kind of the way Danny has his areas, right? So it's like, and I've tried to experiment a little bit with Danny's methods of having kind of each of these pages have all the tasks at the top and just kind of have a bit more of a consistent thing. But I just really like not having my areas in a database. I've tried, but it just doesn't quite work for me. So anyway, it's kind of like my areas page. All of these are the areas of my business. Some of these have a lot more detail than others. These are kind of like landing pages. Some of you might be familiar with the Learning Hub, for example. You can jump in here. You probably have something similar, where you're tracking online courses and learning and things like that. So some of you have probably seen this in other videos, guides, articles. Everything's kind of summed up in one gigantic page. But this is kind of what I'll open up if I'm doing some course studies and that sort of thing. Something I am experimenting with that was influenced by Monica, who was on Office Hours, is adding course lessons. So these are now embedded inside my online courses. So that's something I'm kind of experimenting with a little bit. Doing a conversion comedy course here. Yeah.
I'm curious. That's to me, that's a lot of scrolling. my space has one scroll for every single page. Do you actively go up and down that page, or do you normally go into those pages through links elsewhere?
Well, I've got my links up here, and I do go into this page from links elsewhere for sure. Like these courses are individually linked, for example, in my daily journal, in my weekly agenda, and that sort of thing. So this page itself isn't exactly like a practical, it's like, oh, let me go and check what book I'm reading and scrolling down, but it's just kind of an aggregate of all of the stuff that I have on the go, which is a good reminder of how many things I have actually put on my plate in terms of things that I'm learning. It's like, no, you don't need to sign up for another course. You already have a course right here on that same thing. So for me, it kind of helps remind me of what I've already committed to.
So it's kind of like a storage page.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't have any of those.
Yeah. And like something I've thought about doing too is not just having a learning hub, but having like reading, right? And then there I could actually have just the books that are most active and books that I've kind of put on the back burner and that sort of thing. So I could even break this down so that, reading has its own page, active courses has its own page and whatnot. But most, again, those links are also linked inside of my daily journal. So I do track on a daily basis and weekly basis what are the courses I'm really actively engaged in. So it's kind of a catch-all, if you will.
Yeah.
Content Hub is pretty beastly. I mean, I'd love to know what are people most curious about, because like we could go, as deep or as surface level as you want to go with some of these pages.
I've seen a couple of comments. One was loving the table of contents at the top of the page, like the links in the description.
Yeah.
Chelsea is new to Notion, and she's saying that she's feeling pretty good about it, but your space looks really nice. Yeah, my space is not as visually appealing.
Well,
no,
yeah,
mine's going to be disappointing too. Although mine's a little more visual than Danny's.
I do think it, for me anyway, like that's what really drew me into Notion, the fact that it can be an inspiring space, and it can be a space that inspires me to be more creative. So the fact that I can create these like creativity hubs and ideation zones and things like that, where the images themselves are inspiring me, the cover images are inspiring me. That's my design background for sure, and that's what really got me excited about Notion in the first place. And when I first started using Notion, I didn't use any databases at all. Like it actually took me a while before I was like, wait a second, this is crazy powerful. And it took a while, but and now I rely hugely on relational databases, but I think there's still room to make it really fun.
Yeah, I don't know whether I said on the Crowdcast, but when I first started using Notion, I had one page and it was just a long list of tick boxes. Just ticked and
that's how it starts, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking back at it now, I was like, what was I doing? But obviously, you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. Yeah.
I am curious. So you've got the Oki Doki page, but I know you obviously do your daily journaling and the weekly agenda. Where is your like go-to? Do you have a go-to dashboard, or do you have like 2 or 3?
Yeah, I mean, so Oki Doki is definitely like the business dashboard, and then I've got my own, personal Marie HQ here as well. So my journal, the weekly agenda, month and year, these are all private, but my bigger goals are actually shared. So my assistant can see those, and they're connected up with like business outcomes and that sort of thing. But this is a good place to come to sort of anchor myself, like when I'm doing my weekly wrap up as well, taking a look at my goals, looking at, what's on my plate this quarter and all this sort of thing. What are the projects that are on my plate that I'm tagged in, right? So this is just kind of, again, another snapshot of like, what's everything that's sort of on my plate. But really my weekly agenda is probably, that's where I spend the most time. So that gets favorited and I can jump in there. I think I could probably, I'm always like hoping that I didn't have it on a view where it's like, oh no, there you can see all my like insecurities. But here's my weekly agenda. We can, set up a new week using the week template. I shouldn't have a preset date in there, right?
I am waiting for Danny's reaction, because when he sees a lot of properties, he starts to shuffle uncomfortably, and he just sits there going,
I'm pulling the hairs off my legs. There's so many.
For me, though, the benefit is like there's so much stuff that gets tracked in here automatically that I love. And if you use that amazing extension where you can like collapse all those properties in the browser, then you don't even have to worry about it. But yeah, this is my weekly agenda, and of course, all this stuff gets filled up as I fill out my daily agenda. So all these properties, the effectiveness, all my wins and gratitude fill up, and it becomes this, I think it's a really fun weekly report. And because I use emojis in there too, like little trophies and like little like, yay, thumbs up, you know, it becomes this really fun interactive report. So yeah, then I go through and add my journal for the week. And I've got my actions calendar here, which I can view just this week if I want to, because obviously we're looking at, you know, a weekly snapshot, or I can look at the calendar. I can look at my top 3 most important things that need to get done this week, client tasks, and then I've got all of my reflect and review that are kind of tucked in there as well. So online courses, all those things, everything is re-embedded in there as well. I think
all of those views on the database. How many times do you go through those views? Like, do you use them, or do they just sort of like?
No, I have my few key favorite ones, but sometimes I like to keep them there in case I'm like, oh right, I did make a view for that I really like. Let's look at the impact one, right, where it's essential, deep work, daily grind, or whatever. So I like to keep them because I do change my mind sometimes. But generally speaking, I tend to keep it on either one of either the calendar view and the weekly view. So, and then at the end of the week, I can go completed this week. So those are pretty much the only ones that I really use.
Here we go.
What's that?
What?
Go on, Danny. It's Danny's face.
I'm making him very uncomfortable.
Yeah, like I try and keep everything as minimal as possible. So I don't have any views of databases. I just have a different database. So I have no views in a database. And I keep my properties minimal. So your space just looks so like big. There's so much stuff. So
for me, I like having less clicks. So I want to see everything that is on my plate in one view. I don't want to be clicking and like looking at different things. So I rarely even use toggles. Like I know a lot of people like tuck everything into toggles, but I want to see at a glance, what is on my plate? What is the most important thing? So for me, this week is a bigger snapshot, but I also have my focus view. So focus is where I go to where it's a little bit more laser focused. There's no other properties. There's no other distractions. So let's jump into the focus view. This might still give you hives, but the most important thing, the week's top 3, and then what is on today by effort. I don't even think this one's accurate. Let's see here. Data's on or before today, or days today. And you can see I have not done my weekly planning, so I can like clear out some of that stuff. But this is probably the simplest view where I can see everything that is on my plate that I've committed to.
Right. Yeah. Like, so yeah, I have, so essentially my dashboard is my focus view. And I've just got like what I need to do for today. And then the month. I don't have a weekly view, but that's my preference because I treat the calendar essentially as my weekly view because I don't need to look at what tasks I'm doing later on because I've already planned out ahead of time, so I don't need to think or worry about them. The only thing I would really need to look at in a weekly view is like tomorrow, but that's a view in my area page in my dashboard, which is on my tab bar, and that actually links to one of the questions in the chat. I've lost it. Where was it? There it is. How do you use emojis in line with text in Notion? So Marie, as you're on there, do you want to do a quick demo?
Yeah, I use control command space, and that pulls up the, I don't know, is that a Mac thing?
You can actually just use a colon now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I use the colon. When you said control, I was like, control your Windows? I thought it was Mac. And then you went command. I was like, yeah, there we go.
Command control space. Yeah. I forget too that Notion can just start typing stuff. And
there was a question. I can't find it. I would bring it up. Oh, there. Wait, is that it? No, I don't know. It was something like get like a mind map overview of your space. I can't remember who said it. Do you have like a base structure, a framework, a skeleton, or is it just databases everywhere?
What this person asked was, I really just want a map tree of your whole setup, all your connections and relationships. I realized that would be a crazy map, but smiley face. It was Chelsea Lewis.
I do have a whimsical map. Yeah, I do have a whimsical map of my space that is probably not super up to date, but I could certainly grab the link and find that. But like the pages might seem more complex, but it is actually fairly simple. Like there are a couple core databases that get used everywhere. And then there are just dashboards that just reuse those same databases in different ways. So again, like Focus is using my master task database. My master task database appears in my weekly agenda. Like it's always the same kind of core databases. So the Knowledge Hub, master task database, projects database. So there's a couple core ones. And then I can get more creative with those contextual dashboards to see things in a way that I want to see them. But yeah, I'd be happy to. I'll grab that map at some point. It may not be super accurate, but
I think you shared it on. Did you share it on Twitter? I remember seeing something.
I'm sure I've shared pieces of it before, for sure. It is hard to map out all the relations between them in a way that's even like readable, because it would probably look like Rome madness. Yeah, because like I do. Certainly the daily journal has a ton of connections, and especially with the weekly agenda, because there's so much that I track, like moods and effectiveness and how often I won the day, like how often did I do the thing I said I was going to do. And then I love tracking my flow. How often am I super aligned in my work where I lose track of time and I'm just so into what I'm doing? Those are the things I want to track to really see like how aligned is the work that I'm doing. So, the daily journal is something I've been doing for 2 years. So there's some really fun stuff in there. I think I might have shared this before that for my husband and I's anniversary, I went through and read out like 2 years worth of gratitude. I was just like reading it for fun. And there were so many times that it was like, Ben made dinner, like the number of times I say Ben made dinner in my gratitude. Like apparently I really love when my husband makes me dinner. But it's fun to kind of see what surfaces up and what things were your wins. Because again, I think we forget what we've done even in a year. It's like, oh yeah, like I did do a lot. I think it's really important to kind of remember and celebrate that stuff. So the daily journal, the weekly agenda, it all kind of helps me keep track of that stuff.
Do you find that like tedious at all, or did you find that tedious? Obviously, having done it for so long, it becomes a habit, and you sort of it's become sort of part of your identity almost when you've done it for so long.
No. In fact, like I've tried to have a journaling habit for years and years and years and years. I was never able to stick to it, and I think because it's so easy to select those little drop downs of like 5 stars effectiveness and the emojis, like it was really fun and really pretty, and even the idea of associating an image with the day, right? Like it just became this creative hub, this creative point of reflection, and it doesn't take more than 5 minutes a day. Like there's almost no excuse not to do it. So it's been really fun, and I've never missed a day in over 2 years, I think.
Do you reckon that's because of Notion?
I mean, I think so. Again, I've tried before, and I've tried to do it in other apps as well, like Day One app, and I've tried to do it in a paper journal. I've had so many weekly agenda templates that I've tried to do that sort of thing in. I just never was able to stick to it. So Notion's the only thing I've been able to stick to. And I think just once I made that commitment and once I saw how the relations played together, I was like, ooh, you didn't want to break the streak, because in a way, my whole system is kind of based on the fact that I do a daily entry. So I'm very much incentivized to continue to do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That does make a lot of sense.
Puts the pressure on.
Yeah.
So John, do you journal, John? I don't know. I should probably.
No. I tried to journal for a while, but could never. In fact, I tried to use a similar system to Marie's when I first started. Well, I wouldn't say I first started, but I went on a similar kind of week by week, day by day, etc., etc. But I think it just, for me, I got really lazy and just like, oh, okay, yeah, I got to fit all this information in. I've got to do all of this stuff. And like, for me, Notion helps me get the stuff done so then I can go and do other things. I think that's like, I wouldn't say I have very much personal inside of my Notion unless it's a meeting I got to go to or it's something that my wife has to do. I keep it very like, Notion is for work, because otherwise I would spend even more time than I already do in Notion. And my wife, even now, still thinks that she's a widow to Notion. But yeah, so I kind of like, for me, I use Notion to get stuff done so then I can go ahead and spend more time with my kids and do other things, so to speak.
I'm much more fun. I use Notion to get stuff done so I can play around with Notion. Yeah, I mean, I've recently I tried blogging and journaling like so many different times, and I couldn't find a way to journal without me feeling like it was a chore. Even like I tried the drop down thing. I was like, but do I really want to do that now? Do I really want to do that today? And what I've done recently is I've actually turned my journal into my blog, or blog into journal, either way. So essentially, whatever note I take becomes part of my content. But it's not content, it's just a thought, a note. It could be anything. It could be something someone said, it could be a blog post, a video, it could be anything. But that note then becomes an entry into my journal, and it's just it helps with reviewing the note to start with, rather than it just sitting in that storage system. But it also gets me thinking about something like every day, and once I've got that trigger to start, I can then go. It's finding that reason to start that I struggled with journaling. I was just like, why?
But it shows you how personal it is, right? Like you just got to develop a system that is enjoyable for you. There's no point in setting something up that you're like, oh, why am I doing this? This isn't even fun, or it's not enjoyable. Yeah,
exactly. And something I'm going to actually say that you may disagree with, I'm not sure, but with the banners at the top, I know you like design, but that extra scroll is so irritating. I tried having
on any page, or just
well, all of my pages are active. And it was just like I'd go into the page and then I'd have to scroll irrespective of what I was doing to see anything. And I was like, this doesn't do anything for me. It's actually getting like annoying. So I'm just gonna remove the banners. I know August is.
Yeah.
I think August said something similar in a recent video.
I think some of my more active pages, like the focus page, for example, there's no banner, right? It's like that's there for focus. Whereas weekly agenda might be more of like the spaces that are meant to be more creative have those creative elements. But even the Oki Doki page, for example, all of the pieces of that page that I use are above the scroll. There's no scrolling for the most part. Everything I need is like above the fold, if you will. So I totally hear you. That there's times where I'm like, oh, like I wish I could like even shrink how much of that space is there, for sure. So I get that.
I've thought about it the same with the icons, but if you get rid of the icon, then when you're linking it everywhere else, you're like, no, it just doesn't look nice.
Yeah, you can't find it.
Yeah, exactly. I have to have the icon. Gail's put something in chat that I thought was kind of amusing. John's like in his own world.
You made it.
Gail, is there a support group yet for people who live with obsessive notioners?
For the widows, right? Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it's called Evernote. That's what my wife would say.
Evernote forum.
She does. She literally, I think there was a tweet a while ago where I was talking about we need to plan this in Notion, and I think it was you, Marie, because you do a yearly planning inside of Notion. It's either you or some other Notioner. And my wife came in and went, yeah, no, I'll start a good yearly plan. Let's put it in Evernote. So she on purposely just said, I'm going to use Evernote just because.
Harsh. Our own partners.
We can no longer speak. But then saying that, on Wednesday I'm going to be streaming my first impressions of Rome. Like,
what's your impression of Rome, Marie?
That was going to be my follow-up. Sidekick, shut up.
Hey.
I don't know that I know enough about Rome to have an opinion. I think it's cool what I've seen people produce. It seems great for people that are like doing a lot of their own personal research and writing. Like it just seems like a super effective tool for that. Again, like, surfacing your own thoughts. I think I'd already gone so far down the Notion rabbit hole, making it work and make those connections the way my brain works, like with the master tag database and things like that. So I already know where to find all my things and kind of surface that information. I also use my space really like as a team. And I don't think Rome is necessarily, at least not yet anyway, really great for like team task management. It does seem more for, again, like publications, research, surfacing information, which is great. But it's not, I don't think it's an either or. It seems like something like I know August has also shared like how he uses the two together. So I think that's really cool. It's super technical to my designer eye. I'm like, this is really painful to look at. I really love what Maggie Appleton was doing with customizing CSS and making like styles for her Rome. When I saw her work, I was like, oh, okay, it's beautiful. I could use that. So I can definitely appreciate that. But I do feel like different tools kind of click with different people's brains. And if a tool does not feel good to my eye, like I'm like, nope, I can't use it. So the feel of something is very important to me. But for other people, they're like, screw it, I want to get stuff done. Like it needs to be more utilitarian. So I can totally respect that as well. So I'm curious, your guys' thoughts on Rome.
Jonathan, I'll let you go first.
Oh, you're gonna let me go first? I thought I was just the sidekick. Are you sure? It's okay for me to go first. Thank you so much, sir. Right.
Okay, so basically,
we had a whole episode of our upcoming podcast coming soon where he just interrupted me every 5 seconds. So I'm used to this.
No, I didn't.
Let's not start that. I tried Rome. I think it's a really good tool if you only use Rome.
Huh.
And that for me is the problem, because I have so much power inside of Notion. And I feel like for me, Notion does everything I need. So I don't need to keep moving between different tools and different ideas and different things. And whereas Rome can do one thing really well, which is kind of like the backlinking and making the connections like serendipitously, rather than being very like whereas with Notion you've got to build the structure, whereas with Rome you don't need a structure. The structure is very kind of natural, like the gardener, I think Anne-Marie, I can't say her name, but Nest Labs actually mentions about it being more like a garden versus like an architect, whereas with Notion you're building things up. I found I tried Rome, and I really tried Rome. I went through the course because I can't help but take courses, because I like courses. And I went through the course, a really good course. I think it's Nat Ellison, is it? I think I remember.
Nat Eliason? Yeah.
Eliason, I can't say it. And like, I went through it, I implemented stuff, and it didn't sit right, because it just felt, it felt free, which is great, but if I'm too free, I end up getting really distracted and down a rabbit hole for ages. I like the focus. And if you don't use it for one day, if you're not in the habit immediately, which of course I wasn't because I use Notion daily, it just became like, okay, cool. Now what can I do with this again? Oh, okay, cool. And you have to use it daily. You have to have a daily journal. You have to have the daily pages, the daily notes. And like finding the structure for me just didn't work. I didn't enjoy it. I couldn't.
Yeah. Before I give my response, Gail's put something in chat which I think is quite useful. It says, so much of discussion of the need to start. Yeah, I'm just going to skip the first bit because it's just like talking, but bullet journal conversation essentially. And it comes down to what triggers the person intellectually and creatively, which is very true because everyone is so different. And for me, I mean, it's partly the reason that I'm doing the stream on Wednesdays. Like I was going to explore Rome anyway, because I felt like, very similar to what you said to start with, Marie, it's like, I don't know Rome enough to have an opinion on it, which is why I'm going to explore it. But from what I do know of Rome and the way people have used it, I think the only feature that I would find useful is the fact that you can have like the two tabs, like the two sidebar bits. That's the only thing that I can see myself finding useful, because I think the maps, I don't see how that would be useful in what I do. And the linking, to me, it's actually sort of links with a video that I recorded last week. Like packets of information is something I'm not sure if it's Tiago that talks about packets or whether it was a video. Ali.
Yeah.
But essentially, like the bidirectional linking in Rome, it's not really a packet of information. It's just like the sentence the thing was mentioned in. So it's such a small note. And I think because a lot of us take a lot of notes, or most of the people in the stream, I imagine, will take a lot of notes, it's almost like you have like an abundance of stuff. And you're like, well, where do I start? I have all of this stuff. And that's currently how I perceive Rome. It's like, here's like every link you've ever made to this thing. Here's 100 things. Now go start writing something. How? Like, where do you even start from? Whereas in Notion, because I have like a page and the page has like a packet of information, instead of having 20 different notes, it's just 3 pages and I can pick which page to go to. And if I need to, I can go to all the other relations and stuff that's all linked together. But it gives me like a start point. But who knows, I may be completely wrong. And on Wednesday, I'm like, oh no, Rome's amazing.
It'll be interesting to hear. Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
And I like so many questions have come up in my head. But the one that keeps like coming through is your project task sort of creation process, Marie. I don't know whether you've seen like the way that I do it. I think like John has the same process of you have set tasks, you drag across and drop them in to the task database for a project. Is your process the same?
Well, okay, so there's two things. So one is like the task management side of things, which I'll like drag into the task planner here. But if I'm actually mapping out like project specific tasks, I will jump into that specific project and there will be an embedded database that is all filtered to that project. Is that sort of
Yeah,
what?
so, like I guess the easy example would be, so for my videos, I have like a set process, like an SAP: research, script, edit, record, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So every time I make a video, those tasks are generated in the template, and I drag them down, and then because of the auto filters, everything's dumped on them, and I can just drag them to the date I need to do them. Is that your process?
Sort of. So actually, after watching your recurring task like that, like the fact that you had all of these like you had broken down even your tasks, like thumbnail for this project. Like it was interesting to watch kind of how granularly you broke down your stuff. So it got me rethinking about my own recurring tasks again. So I changed the way I do it. It's still not the same way that you do it, but allow me to show you how I'm handling weekly tasks at the moment now. So I got my template button here. I say weekly recurring tasks, right? You can see all and then I just drag them in. What are we, the 5th? Okay, so plan content, right, newsletter. And because these were originally made in the calendar, they inherit the properties that are accurate to them, right? So I can be like, okay, that one's on the 7th, right? 1 tomato, essential, whatever. And so I can go through and be like, okay, these 3 are on Wednesday, and I can just drag and map out my week in a couple seconds just based on that weekly recurring task. So it's kind of similar to how you do it a little bit. It kind of re-inspired me a little bit. And this just takes a couple seconds, and I love this process now. So before I just used to connect my journal to it. So there was always like one task that just never got marked done. Now these can actually get marked done, and it's a little bit more accurate in terms of tracking what I'm doing. So I like this system now.
So how granular do you get with your tasks?
I would say probably not nearly as granular as you do with yours. Like like doing a thumbnail for a cover like would not be something for me. It's like publish the video. I know that as part of the publishing process, I have to make that graphic. I have to do so. Those things would just be like little notes inside of that task. And because I'm a designer, you know, like I'm going to do that in a couple seconds. Like I have my template. Like to me, it doesn't. And because I have a master task database that I share with my husband, I share with my assistant, like if every single tiny 10-second or even 15-minute task was on there, I think it would feel unnecessarily bloated. So I do sometimes keep some of those smaller, tiny tasks just tucked inside of the main task itself. Because those have just become habitual tasks, if you will. It's like, oh, I know those like 3 steps that I do as part of that thing. So I think my tasks are not super granular. They're definitely, you know, under a day for sure. I would not take something longer than a day usually.
Yeah, I have a similar. So in my thumbnail task, there's in all of my tasks, I have subtasks. They're just tick boxes. Like the publish one, for the publishing task, it's published to YouTube, and then it's like do all of the other things, like make sure the SEO is right, make sure it's linked with a video, end screens, cards, and loads of other stuff that I can't remember because it's in Notion and I don't need to remember it. But yeah, so those tasks have like lots of things in them. But yeah, I assume you've seen Gail's question because you've started to demonstrate the process.
New recurring task list. So I would usually start with these in your calendar, like make sure you've given them all the properties that you want. And then I would actually drag all of those properties into here so that these become like pages, and they'll keep the same properties. Like here, let me give you an example. So I'm going to open up this task, and let's say this is business task. It's in progress by default. I know this is an essential task. It's assigned to me, right? maybe it's like a super difficult task. So if I move this task into here, okay, this is my recurring task list. So when I make a new task, oh, hang on. Oh, here's a trick. You actually have to add a space. Add a space. Yeah.
I don't use a template button anywhere, so there's some quirks about it.
Oh wow, yeah.
There's some quirks about it that I had to figure out. Sorry?
Really?
I don't need it. All my templates are in in databases, in projects and tasks. I have one template in the areas database, I think. I don't have. I've got one in flashcards because of the quotes that I've put in there, but that's literally just for an emoji. Like three of the templates in the tasks are pretty much just emojis. And then all the tasks that I generate are generated inside the project because they're all preset tasks. So I click and drag.
I can show you, Gail, too, how I use template buttons for like productized services. So if someone is, like a team wants a consult, and I can say new proposal, and it spins out a page that I can then share with them. If that gets approved, I move that into a new project for them. So I definitely use template buttons quite a bit for creating offers.
So why do you not have it as a project first? That always intrigued me because I knew your space, you always have a proposal before it becomes a project.
Yep.
Why?
Well, but it's not an active project yet. It's not like, what if I don't win the project, or what if I don't get that, the possibility of adding projects that are just going to stay in there and then I'm going to have to delete them? It doesn't, I don't know.
Do you not have an archive?
I do, but I would archive that proposal. So it's only once things are kind of become an active project that I would really put the effort into creating a new project. I mean, I certainly could and then archive it, but yeah.
That really intrigued me because like I have a similar process, but I actually have it as a database template. So whenever someone comes to me for a consult, I have that as a template and they come and have a discussion with me, blah, 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 blah. And then if it turns into a project, it does. Otherwise, it just gets archived. And then I can I can see why it was archived as well, because I'll put a little note for myself. So that's fascinating.
Yeah. There's certainly
I have the same process. I don't think it's quite the same as John, but it's the same ideas behind it. But we all work differently. Something that came up in chat was about tomatoes. Where was it?
Yeah.
There we go.
The Pomodoro.
Yeah.
Yes, those are for Pomodoros. Yes, you can totally steal it. I'm sure I got the idea from somewhere.
Borrowed creativity.
Gail, that was asking about. Yeah. Does that clarify the recurring task list for whoever was asking that? Like the fact that you can drag that in, right? And then you can do that for any batches. Oh, Gail, let me know if that answered your.
I think so, because I think you followed up with another question. You
always got to clean your stuff up after, right? All these like mystery tasks. I was like, why is that in my space? Well, I can show you my offer. Like, I hope that some of these pages, I'm like, I hope this is clean. Okay, so here's an example.
I think almost every time I've shown my space in the last like month and a half, there's been loads of like just all
like,
over.
They'll look. Okay, so yeah, I've got like a couple offers here. So like strategic roadmap proposal. If I click on that, that opens up a new document. Right, and I've got this whole document here that's got all sorts of stuff, kind of placeholder in there. And then the roadmap that I would actually send to the client. Hello, client. This is what we're going to do together. And this becomes a proposal that I...
looks so beautiful.
Oh, like that should be a gallery. Damn it. There we go.
Oh, no.
There we go. Right. I think embedding case studies is such a great way to show these like proposal projects as well. So like some of these are pretty substantial. If you open this up, like what services were, the tech that was used, the services that was provided, and there's a whole kind of story of what we did together. So that way, what I like about this is it can be really clean, but they can dive deeper if they want to go into way more detail about what was done in these projects. And then I just share that link with the person. And then if that gets accepted, that gets added to the project. And I would drag that whole thing into the client's thing, right? So there it is there. And so I've got a couple different, was that the proposal roadmap? I've got a couple different ones as well. So yeah, those are just my template buttons that can generate a new one and then just replace the client's name. But yeah, you could certainly do that inside of a project template as well.
Yeah, there was a question about archiving. Do you?
Yeah, like for example,
do you have like a database for archiving, or do you just sort of like leave them and not have them show?
like archived proposals.
I don't think it was specific. It says when you say archive, how are you archiving? So I guess anything.
Yeah, for example, I have proposals here too, and I think we have a status that's like V1 or like old or whatever. So like I still have references of them, but I'll often also just kind of drag them into archives. So they're still there, they're available. I do also have like my archives page. I think it's under Oki Doki now. I kind of moved that because it's not like, I don't use it often enough to kind of have it be a top level workspace item. But inside my archives page, I have a tasks archive and a projects archive. And also just, it's kind of a dumping ground. If there's just pages I don't want to be cluttering up my space, I can also move those into the archives page.
You mean like the ones you be panickingly do like 15, 20 minutes before a live stream?
There you go. Those ones, yeah.
Shh, you're meant to keep it secret.
Let's see. Oh, here we go. There's another one, strategic roadmap. Yeah, I've got a couple. Like some of these are old. I don't even use some of these anymore. Strategic, let's see the V2. Let's see what that one looks like. I think you saw, there's like a couple variations where maybe I'll change the language and copy a little bit. Social enterprise, that one's empty. Yeah, there's a couple versions here. Yeah.
A question came in from Adam about, it was directed at all three of us. So whoever goes first, it doesn't really matter. So it's how do the three of you deal with tasks that are due this week, as there's no filter for it? Many productivity apps sometimes reuse, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So essentially, how do we deal with tasks this week? I know both of you use a weekly agenda, weekly planner. So I'm assuming that's just how you guys go about it.
Yeah, like in my weekly agenda, I have the week view that is by date, right? So it's like anything that is between this date and this date that needs to get done this week. I also have my top 3, right? That always appears at the top in my weekly agenda, also at the top of my focus database. So I always know like what are the most important things that have to get done this week, and give it a date. Like if it is got to be done in the week, assign it a due date so that it's going to appear in that filter for the week.
So do you have your task database linked into the page? So you look into the page, or do you just stay in your weekly planning view?
I'm almost always exclusively in my weekly planning view.
Using search. Who uses search?
Well, because I haven't favorited that week. Normally that week is at the top, so that it always goes. Whenever you hit like command 1, it always goes to your top favorite one at the top. But there may be private stuff in there, so I just thought it would be safer to just share this one. But my top 3 would appear here, and I do also have my this week view that I can kind of get the overview of the week. So today, tomorrow, next, later. Next and later is probably like stuff that's going to be next week, but the today, tomorrow is going to be where things are happening this week. And I can also do things like, on deck by priority, whatever. There's so many different ways you can do that as long as you're filtering, filtering by date. I can even remove that since I've got this new recurring system. Yeah, I'm curious how you guys.
The amount of times I do that, I go into a filter, I'm like, oh, I don't need that anymore. I get rid of that.
Yeah.
Jonathan, your screen's gone black. You were going to share.
Oh no, I was just looking because I couldn't remember, because I don't actually think about how I do things until I actually have to do things.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Well, you said that, John. Show us what you do.
So this is more my meetings. So I have it in calendar view for the week, and it literally is within this week or is today. And I added the yesterday one so I could view it. So it's not strictly speaking this week. I have got rid of my weekly agenda. Like I stopped using weekly agenda recently because I was getting.
We need to talk about this.
I remember you saying that now.
Yeah, I stopped using the weekly agenda because for me, I can just see everything I need to here, And then if I need to see like next day or week or tasks or projects, or I just don't need to anymore. Like I don't. The reason why I had the weekly agenda originally was because of like the date, knowing what day it was. But because of the updated way you can show dates now, and you can just put the day of the week, I don't need to see that anymore. So I don't need to see my week at a glance. If I want to see my week at a glance, I'll look at my tasks either today or tomorrow or this week. I look at it in a calendar view, and I'm fairly happy because recently I've implemented like my daily themes where I know what I'm doing each day. These are the tasks. These are the types of tasks I'm going to work on. This is the type of work I want to do. Like, I don't need to be so like weekly. I don't need to plan as much because I know every week's going to be either similar or completely different, and then I'll just roll with it as such. So I've kind of just simplified it to make it like I just do what I need to do that day and I carry on.
Because I know you love talking about it, how did you make that table?
Right. I don't love talking about it. You just love bringing it up because it makes you feel good, because I said I looked at your page and then figured out how to create an array inside of the inline math. So that's
it's nice that you've given me credit, but I still want you to click on it.
Cool. If you want me to click on it, that's fine. There you go. What would you like me to do? Would you like me to break it down for you?
Oh yeah, please explain how the array works and how everything works.
I have already turned this into a template, which you can include in the description. But if you really want me to break it down,
be quick.
Okay, fine. So, how many columns it's going to be?
This shit. They're going, how did it work?
That's so nerdy.
And so these are the text formatting. I have like these Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's the top one. So you've got the serif font. It is serif font, isn't it, Marie? I assume it is. I could be wrong. I'm not a designer. But you've got the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then you've got the @ moves it to the next column. Then you have kind of like the text formatting. Then you have these two kind of, is it backslash? Probably backslash. Yeah, 2 backslash to go to the next column. And then I have the kind of on biz. So these are my kind of themes at the top there. And this is using the F box. It creates a box around the outside. And then I make it a little bit smaller, so it's not too much. And then I continue going down. Then I add a bullet after these next 2 dots. There's the small text. And each of these is the bullets underneath of the kind of ideas and tasks that I'm completing. And that's how it's made really, really quickly.
Nice. Great explanation.
Thank you. You can carry on now.
I saw a question come in from, I think it was Chelsea. Where is it?
Danny's gleeful revenge. Hang on a minute. Gleeful revenge. He is always mean to me. I am consistently bullied by him.
Excuse me? You're on the stream, right?
Yeah, the only thing you can bully me on the stream.
Maybe.
Yeah, you knew what you were in for, Jonathan.
You keep coming back, so you must enjoy it.
What's it called? Stockholm syndrome?
It was a question from Lizzie. How do you do the top 3? I assume that's directed at Marie, so we'll jump back to Marie's space.
Yeah, that's just a filter for top 3. Status is top 3. And I also do have a little win the day item here, so I can rapidly apply one. And I know anything with the star is going to be one of those like big important things that has to get done that week.
A question that came in the form, which I think Peter's actually just put in the chat as well, was he said, I'll read it from the chat, that way I'm not looking at the other screen. And I can bring it up. I have almost ready to a complete Notion freelancer system template. Wow, that reading was atrocious. Please share some advice to launch it and get traction to sell. So I think that's directed at selling a template, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I'm reading it. Marie, you're definitely more experienced than myself. I don't know how long John's been doing it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously getting in front of people in terms of whether or not you have other free templates that you've shared with people. YouTube obviously is just an amazing platform for sharing how you think and sharing your approach. So someone's like, oh, I want your set of templates, right? You could even check out the live stream we did with Ben Issenman, he has a freelancer template set as well. He broke down kind of how he did it, product hunt and things like that. So it's really just getting pieces of it visible. Maybe you could share some teaser videos, tweet out little sneak peeks of it. Like I'm sure you guys have probably seen if you've tweeted something like, oh, here's how I'm handling this thing here. And then people they go nuts. They get really excited about it. So if you're already sharing a little bit about what you're already doing, YouTube, Twitter, product hunt, Notion Made Simple Facebook group, wherever you can just kind of share. And I think if you can share in a way that isn't just like, hey, buy my template, but like, hey, I've got this useful resource for you, or check out how I did X. Here's a little walkthrough of kind of how I'm handling that. I think the Notion community kind of rewards that sort of generosity and people just sharing what they know and giving back. So if you just become a helpful person within the community, people are going to remember you and share that stuff around.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same for me. I'll let Jonathan go because I think Jonathan's got, how many templates have you got now? You've got quite a few.
4 public, 3 coming soon.
Cool. Yeah.
So I do things, for me, I do it slightly differently because I like being live. So I don't just give away the templates are kind of like an aside.
It's gravy bonus.
Kind of the gravy. Whereas I feel that templates are great and awesome and really useful to learn Notion. But when it comes to, you need to build your own system. Like the reason why my system and Danny's system and Marie's system, like the reason why our systems are so like in depth and amazing and great to use is because we've spent the time using it. Like we've spent the time going, okay, this works. Okay, I like how Danny's done this. Let me try this in mine. If it works, it's an iterative process. It never ever ends. And even and so when you buy these templates, you should be if you do sell a template, like be prepared for more questions and keeping on like iterative. It's trying to work out whether you want to be known as a Notion template seller or someone who is kind of more productivity. And I think like all 3 of us kind of talk productivity quite a lot. I know in your course, Marie, like you have a whole section just on like the introduction on that Notion is hard, this is fine. And the problem is Notion is hard. The templates can cut the time off.
But
sometimes they can often increase the time because you've
really got some funky formulas in there.
Yeah. And I do usually recommend that folks like go through at least these few lessons. Like you have to have a really good core understanding of relations or even roll-ups before jumping into these templates, because they're not going to make sense to you. And you're going to probably get very frustrated if you don't understand the core mechanics. And then also if you don't have good workflows and good habits, right? So if my system is so based on my daily journal routine and my weekly agenda, but if that's not your habit, routine, way of thinking, it's not really going to make sense to you. And in order for you to make it work for you, you do have to understand how to use Notion from a construction standpoint. So it's a bit of systems thinking, right? It kind of teaches you to think a little bit differently about your own behavior and like optimizing for your own brain. So it does take that little extra know-how that I think it goes so much more beyond a template. And I don't know if you guys are familiar, I think I've mentioned it before, but Tara McMullen has she calls it a leadership dashboard, right? Yeah, you're in the What Works network as well.
Yeah.
But I like the way she positions that template is it's like a comprehensive system. So she's selling a system that happens to be baked into a Notion template, but it's really about teaching someone a new way of being, not just like, buy my template. So those are very different positioning. And I think also when you move toward that, I'm teaching you a system, a leadership system or a productivity system, the price point can actually be a lot higher because you are actually teaching someone those higher level skills. So that's something to consider as well as how you position it.
And that's where I position everything that I sell. It's not the template I'm selling, it's bonus. It's the theoretical knowledge behind, like choosing what courses to learn and study, or like choosing to how to manage your week and realizing when you've over like scheduled and tried to do too much. It's like
I've never done that in my life.
No.
I could just show you my task for tomorrow and you'd get scared.
Yeah.
And it's about kind of, it's a much higher level kind of discussion.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that was the name of I don't know whether it's a group or your was it a webinar, Zoom call, meeting, presentation, the thing you did the other day.
The
It was serving, not selling.
Oh yeah, the client con presentation.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
And the serving, not selling, I think is a really good point to put here, because I see some people, and like you say, they sell their template. They don't try and serve an audience. They don't give any value. It's sort of like, this is how I've done.
Drive by, right? It's like drive by. Here's my thing. Bye. Yeah.
Yeah, and they suddenly just appear in whatever group, whatever, like wherever it is. You're like, okay, who are you again? And then they just bounce out. You're like, what? And like I didn't. So my page, Jonathan, sort of like got me into gear really with the selling stuff. But I put everything, free templates on the Notion page. I was like, there you go duplicate and play whatever. And then I realized money's actually something that you need to live.
Pay the rent, to keep these live streams going, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment I'm living at home, but eventually they'll kick me out. But yeah,
it's just you messing around in Notion. Get out and get a job.
Get a real job. Yeah.
Well, I've graduated now, so technically, like all of my peers in my cohort, they're like, "Oh, where are you applying for this? Or have you seen this job? Or have you seen that like S&C thing?" And I'm like, "Nope."
I just want to be a Notion influencer.
Pretty much. I don't know whether that's a thing, but I mean, there are so many videos about Notion out there. There's so many. I mean, I put on my Instagram stories today. I went through a couple of just searches. I found 33 Notion videos that I hadn't seen. And I was like, okay, gonna have to watch them.
It's gonna get harder and harder to keep up, I imagine.
Well, I think because I watch things ×2 speed, and a lot of things, because I've watched so many YouTube videos, I almost know what they're going to say before they're going to say it, because everyone sort of says the same sort of stuff. So my finger's on the arrow key. It's on ×2, and I'm like, it's a 15-minute video. I'm like, okay, intro. Okay, that's interesting. Do it. No. Okay, that was cool. What was that about? Okay, that's nice. Carry on. Okay, there we go. It's like, wow, 15-minute video done in like 10-15 seconds, and I'll blast through them all, which is kind of how I get through so much
life.
Yeah, blast.
So get through life.
There was a question that came into the form, and it was linked to a Reddit post, which is where I had to bring it up. And I remember seeing this Reddit post. It was 5 days ago, and it was about legal consequences for Notion, about security, data loss stuff. I'm not going to read it out because it's like a long post, and there were lots of conversations about it, and it's in Reddit. But I guess security and like the doomsday backup conversation. Do you back up? I know I don't think any of us do, but
I've done a couple exports, but no, I don't really. I like to live on the edge a little bit, and I'm pretty like a risky person. So I'm like, whatever. I put a lot of trust into my tools for sure. So
you say tools. What else do you use aside from Notion?
Let's see what else. I mean, Dropbox for design files and things like that. My calendar, BusyCal. It's not a ton. I could check my tools database. Why didn't I do that?
You have okay. I'm bringing this up. Your tools database.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got
mine would have one entry.
One password, Airtable, brain.fm, right? You can see hello sign, hey.com. Yep. There's a lot there. I guess there's more than I thought.
Yeah, that's a lot of tools. Do you use all of those, or are they just things that you did use and have now moved away or changed to another one? Or
so I actually have a tools database, and then I have our tools database. So there's like another database that has like all the tools, and so this particular list is tools that I actually do use. And then they're linked up with like SOPs and stuff like that too, right? Like let's look up. Right, I can see like SOPs, refunds, paying affiliates, updating sales metrics trackers. So they're all connected.
Right. Lizzie's just put something in chat. She can't put me on ×2 speed because I'm talking too quick. It's funny you say that because my earlier videos, I actually got told I talk too quick, so I slowed down. And I slowed down drastically. And I feel really uncomfortable recording a lot of the videos at the moment. Like all the newer videos, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I get this." I'm like, but I feel like a slug. I feel like I'm
like
talking.
Slow down so I can speed you up.
I feel like I'm talking like a slug. But obviously it helps people understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Like when I know what I'm talking about, when I'm excited about what I'm talking about, both those things speed me up, and I know I speak quickly anyway. So I just go through it, and I know sometimes when I'm speaking with Jonathan, I'll sort of just go, and then I'll finish, and John will be like, "What?" Be like, "Hold up."
Hold on, put on the closed captions. What did he say?
But then Jonathan's kind of the same. Like,
I don't know what you're talking about.
I reckon people listening to the podcast are either going to have to play it like 0.5 speed, or just have to like stop, rewind. So was that Whimsical?
Whimsical maps. Yeah, my whole we got a whole workflows database too. Kind of maps out a bunch of stuff and maps out the team team responsibilities.
I've never used Whimsical. Like I think I've tried all the embeds just to see what they look like, just because it's Notion. Like I've tried it because it's Notion. That's about it. Is that like more of an overview that you come in and just like remind yourself, or is that for new people when onboarding potentially?
Yeah, like so for example, that this was something I had to fill out for a mastermind group so that I could submit it, and they actually review your roles chart and things like that, so they can help make suggestions for like, oh, it sounds like you're doing way too much over here. You might want to consider hiring a VA or hiring a graphic designer and things like that. So it was an exercise just to really see how much of the sort of daily responsibilities are on your plate. And so when I do bring in someone new to Notion, right, I want to be able to explain to them like, oh, you're going to want to check out the workflows that cover XYZ, because if a new employee kind of has, specific responsibilities, if they're in charge of like the affiliate side of things, right, they know exactly where to go and kind of see how all the points connect, and they can kind of pick up the tech pretty quickly. And Georgia too, my assistant, will go in and add documentation along with this stuff too. So there's the Whimsical map, but then there's also like the text-based Notion embedded Loom videos and things that go into more detail about how to do something. So it's like part training, part reference manual, that sort of thing. Which is something I used to do for clients a lot too. So I was using Notion to help them build out their SOPs and their documentation.
Okay, that's it. That makes sense. I was like, that sounds like a good idea. I'm planning for the future. When I get an assistant, at the moment it's me, myself, and I doing everything.
Yeah, I mean, I was that for like eight years. So like even hiring a virtual assistant was a big change for me to even like trust someone else to handle different parts of your business. So I started to, knowing it was going to happen, I started getting into the habit of just recording on Loom what I was doing. It's like even things like updating a post on your WordPress website, or uploading a new image, or how do you even decide what images, right? So just including these instructions and kind of talking out loud, recording Loom videos, that became the easiest way to kind of get her on board of like kind of rambling on Loom and just kind of, talking out loud. But then she would actually go and make the proper documentation based on my rambling video.
That's fair enough. I assume John's kids have just like run in the room because he's turned the camera off. So I saw Lizzie put in the chat, is the podcast live yet? No. So we've family yelling. Yeah. So we've recorded, much to Jonathan's I don't know whether it's dislike, but I like planning everything ahead of time.
Yes.
Jonathan, I don't know whether he does or doesn't. I don't want to sort of like throw him under the bus when he can't defend himself. But he didn't seem to be a fan of planning ahead of time. So I've said, well, let's record 3 episodes so we've got them like out ready to go when we start. So it's like the intro one, which is like short, and then the first couple. So there's something to go on. Yeah. And then so we recorded those this week because it's Sunday. the next week we'll have one, and that will be like the 3rd episode. So we'll be essentially a week ahead. So we've recorded them, but we haven't put them out yet. And Jonathan decided to do a lot of editing on the podcast, and I was like, why? Just have a conversation. I mean, the idea is literally just the live stream, just more uncensored, and there's no screen because it's just us. And there's definitely a lot of laughing. He may cut that out. I don't know.
This one's too maniacal. Cut.
Well, it's like, yeah, there's laughing fits. We try not to do it on stream because some of it can get mildly insulting, and we know that obviously live you need to be fairly
respect.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to. I mean, it could be part of your brand to be very not PG, right?
Gary Vee is a perfect example.
There we go.
Yeah. I saw something else in chat. Where is it? That was it. Danny speed ×2. It is the better practicing for English. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
I think it was Teresa. You know Teresa, the Notion Pro?
Yeah.
I was speaking to her on a Zoom call. It was a while ago now. But she was saying that the words August uses are like kind of long, and she doesn't quite understand some of them.
Oh.
But then the speed that I speak at, she's like, you need to slow down.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so I try to keep my vocabulary quite limited when I'm explaining videos, because as soon as you go into Notion jargon and you start talking like productivity jargon, like I even lose myself sometimes. And with the speed I'm talking at, if I was to have a large vocabulary with a quick speed, it's just going to not be watchable.
Playing you at halftime.
Yeah, exactly.
with closed captions, yeah.
With the captions, I remember us speaking about Descript.
Yeah.
So I don't. Oh, there we go. He's back. Don't worry, John. I only threw you under the bus a couple of times.
Why am I not surprised?
And then he reversed, and then he drove forward again, and then reversed. Yeah.
And then he got out the car and just started kicking me.
Yeah.
Pretty close. I forgot what I was going to say now, John.
Descript. You were talking about Descript.
Jonathan, go away. You put me off. Yeah. So with descripting, Jonathan was descripting the podcast.
Oh no.
It was so funny. It was missing a couple of words, and because we were laughing and speaking, and it was coming out with gobbledygook. It was so funny. I think we spent about 10 minutes just having a conversation, but both of us were on Zoom, and he screen shared the Descript, like what was going on. We were just talking, and we were both paying more attention to Descript than what we were actually saying.
And the wild interpretations of Descript of what you're actually saying.
Yeah. Well,
supposedly we talk about Babylon an awful lot.
Well, so to give you a bit of an insight into the conversations, bearing in mind we'd been talking about 3 hours at this point, so I think we had like a 5-hour talking session. Yeah, well, that's sort of like average for us. Like whenever we're on a call, we're like, "Hey, can I just ask you this quick question?" Yeah, sure. An hour later, oh, we should probably get back to that thing we were meant to be doing. But so we I'll get to my point in a minute. We were doing anyway. Reverse it. So we did the first podcast episode, and then we started recording these. I think it was the second one. We did the intro, and then we did the second one, didn't we? And Jonathan said professional podcasters, and immediately, as soon as I heard that, PPs. We are PPs.
Oh no.
So Descript has just got PP. Like every other word. We're adults.
Oh, I can relate. I have a sense of humor of a 5-year-old.
actually have an actual serious question about Notion that we could probably seriously answer, unless it was sent while I was away, about what both of you think of a master tag in box.
No, that was put in 3 minutes ago, and that was when I was starting to talk about PPs, but I didn't actually get there. So we'll go to that one now. Master tag database. I don't have one, so that's all Marie.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean when you say in inbox, but I do use a master task database that's connected to quite a few other databases, so I can open one up to show you. So I connect it up to like people database, notes and ideas, knowledge hub, inspiration, words and wisdom, my content, 12 problems, entertainment. Yeah, it's linked up to pretty much everything. So if I wanted to see like everything related to a particular topic, I could jump in and see everything. I don't ever really go to the tag database. I'm only ever kind of referencing it in other places. So it's been very handy. Yeah.
So is that kind of like your backlinks, bidirectional links to get to different things?
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
Do you use backlinks and bidirectional linking?
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, I haven't really been. A couple times, but like it hasn't been like baked into my workflow yet. I think just probably because I have a lot of structured data at this point, and like a lot of structured databases that I just kind of have my flow and my relations going really well, that it's just faster for me to kind of use the structures to jump around. But I'm open to adjusting my process as it becomes a bigger part of my workflow. Like I at mention in the body copy when I'm typing something, I will at mention other pages too. So that is something I'm doing a lot more often now. But I still don't rely on the backlinks links in the top of pages that often. But I don't know. I'm open to being challenged.
Yeah.
No, sorry, you're not going to be challenged.
Right.
What's that?
So we've spoken about PPs, and I think backlinks are just poo-poo. They are so bad. I had that in my head. I was like, keep a straight face. No, I can't. Like, backlinks are just, I don't like them. I like the idea of them, but I really haven't found a use for them. I'd much rather have a relation than a backlink because you get so much more from them.
Yeah.
If potentially we get like a sidebar similar to what Rome has, maybe useful if we get like a transclusion where you can see what's going on from the backlink rather than the page, then maybe then it's useful. But with my current note-taking system, I have a notes database and everything's related to everything. So if I have like a top note, then I'll have the next note that's related, and it's just like a relation going all the way up through. So why would I need a backlink for that? Yeah, I really haven't found a use, and I've seen lots of people use backlinks, but every time I see a use, I'm like, yeah, but you could just use a relation, and then you can do it like this, and then you get all of this as well.
Yes.
And it's just like, I feel like they're trying to find a use case for backlinks because it's a thing, rather than it would help.
Than it really being baked into it as like a from the ground up. Yeah. Yeah. Like the Zettelkasten conversation is kind of an interesting one too. Like I've had so many people ask me about that, and I kind of think in a way the Zettelkasten system is based on the assumption that the note lives in one place, and so in some ways it's kind of limited. So I'm like, but the system is like way more powerful than Zettelkasten because it doesn't rely on, there's only one entry. And so I did see someone do a video on it that I'm like, that feels a little bit convoluted. It kind of feels like what I'm already doing with my notes and ideas database and tagging and then roll up. So if I've tagged a note with something, I can roll up any other knowledge that is connected to that note. Only thing annoying about that is not being able to click on a roll up.
Oh, right? Yes.
If they could just change, then I could really go down the rabbit hole and be connecting ideas and things like that. But at least it kind of reminds you of content. You're like, oh yeah, I saved that. That's also really useful. So I kind of feel like I've created my own, like Rome, Zettelkasten, whatever system that pulls everything together that I want.
Yeah, that there's so many small things in Notion that are just like, can you please
just the one thing?
The thing is, those little one things. Yeah. Have you seen that comment? Is that what you're clapping to? The,
Which
uh,
one?
the comment from Adam. We'll go there in a second.
No, it wasn't that. But yeah, I'm just, I know where you're going. You're going to go really, really pointlessly nerdy. I was editing the podcast on Friday, and I was just like,
I'm going to bring up the exact same point.
we are really, really nerdy.
We did warn people. It is Notion nerdy.
Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. Actually, Marie, you might have seen it in the Slack group because I mentioned it. But essentially, when when you roll up a date property, it's read as a text file and not like a string of text rather than a date.
Yeah.
So when you put it in a formula, it doesn't recognize it as a date, and you're just like. So in my space, what I've had to do is I've had to add another roll up just so I can get the date property so I can use it in a formula. So I've had to add a property just for that. And it's just,
oh yeah.
You know how much he doesn't like having properties.
I did find a way to get rid of that. I found a way to get rid of it by adding in another whole section of another formula box. So essentially, I got rid of a property by adding in like a whole section of a formula. I was like, there we go, sorted. But yeah, so Adam asked about Jonathan, how do you achieve your navigation bar, and is it global, and can it be updated easily?
Well, my navigation bar is incredible.
I'm going to share your screen, Jonathan. So okay. At the moment it's black. There we go.
Now there you go. This navigation bar is completely of my own creation. It's not. It's actually Danny's. Danny created it, or came up with it first, or at least shared it first. And so each of these, as Tools on Text have said, it's a global block which I put in all of the areas of my database. It's just an emoji, which is why I don't use custom emojis in anywhere on my space, because one, I'm nowhere near a designer. As you can see, my attempt at design is a leaf. It's not very good anyway.
Mine's white. It's just white.
I know. And yeah, so it's a global block where I have emojis that links to different pages. And these are primarily different areas that I'm linking to. And so I have my Course Junkie Planner in here. I have, linking to my tasks. So for task management, I've got things that need attempt, tasks for tomorrow, project tasks, all of that, SOPs that are related. I just kind of have this in multiple places, and it's the same thing the whole time. Yeah.
So that's actually interesting, because I do have like my own icons for social media platforms. So I have YouTube for my YouTube area. I have LinkedIn for LinkedIn, Facebook for Facebook. I
do have that, but I don't link them directly. I just link to the content hub, which I think is currently a mess because I haven't finished it because I keep changing it. Sorry.
Relatable.
So, I don't think I've changed my space like drastically in like a year, but I've constantly like small little tweaks here and there. So Jonathan, do you only link to your like content hub then? Do you not link to each individual platform?
Yeah, I'm remaking my content hub at the moment because I'm just making the transition from having the separate database to putting it into the projects. So I'm kind of mid.
I didn't realize you were doing that. I didn't realize you were doing that.
Yeah, I'm doing a load of bigger changes on my space at the moment. I got rid of the weekly agenda because I just felt it was too fiddly for me. The moment, I don't know whether I know you're not the same, Danny, because you don't change very often, but I think Marie changes quite a bit because it's like when something feels just that little bit wrong and you want to tweak it slightly, you can't help yourself. You'll go into a rabbit hole of tweaking it, and it's all like work for your current workflows. And then as your business grows, you have to adapt. Like when I took on my VAs, wow, my workspace had to change. Like quite a bit because it was just me. It was just for me. And then when I brought on another team member, they were like, oh, I don't get this, I don't get that. So you really had to kind of mold and change it as you go. And so for me, my like this top bar area is a work in progress, because I think actually my entire Notion system's a work in progress. It's always.
Do you want to share, Jonathan? Like I think our systems are a little bit similar in terms of you had a content specific database, but now you're actually moving your content into becoming projects similar to how Danny does.
Yeah.
And like talk about that change and kind of like why you decided to make this change.
It's actually created. So I have my kind of ideas This is kind of like my brain dump, which is like Danny's notes. So this is where I dump anything that I'm thinking of. And also often my VAs come in and they're like, oh, this is a really good idea. This is something you could try. And they actually add it in. So it automatically assigns it as someone who's added it in. But at the moment, it's just me. So I have my content ideas and then I drag it into a project. Have I created all the projects? At the moment, I've only got the YouTube one.
Does that mean you're going to make YouTube videos?
You're so funny. Not. And so I have kind of like the overall structure of what I'm going to do. And then I literally distribute it out between myself and my two, excuse me, and my two VAs. And then kind of I have a resources section for just kind of collecting and collating ideas and putting them all in place.
Those items at the top, I noticed they're pages. So I'm just curious, are those like SOPs for those different pieces, or what is that?
No,
What
they're
does it look like?
literally just exactly how Danny uses it. I'll do this and then I'll undo it so it doesn't break.
Oh, and then you drag it into your.
I just drag it in here. And once I've fixed, there's a small tiny bug with one of these, and I can never remember which one, which means the relationship.
That page that you've just dumped in there may now have whatever you have filtered in. I'll just let you know for the next time that you drag it in.
Now I'm going to go and tweak it and fix. I've got to fix this page anyway because it was based on an old template, and then it tried to do a relation, and it remembers the old relation, but the database has been deleted. And when you do databases, it doesn't mean they're gone. It never means they're gone. I think that's another rant me and Danny had on the stream.
You sit there for like 10 minutes, 20 minutes. You're like, where is this thing going to? And then you finally find it. And it's like, oh, database has been deleted. Do you want to delete it permanently? I'm like, yes, that's why I deleted it in the first place. And the relation just sits there.
Well, mind you, I've seen a ton of clients do a lot of accidental deletion. I was just like, how is this possible? You're a danger to yourself.
Is it a permanent deletion or just like a temporary deletion? Like, as in this annoying deletion thing that we have.
What's that?
Do they actually permanently delete it accidentally, or like the annoying sort of deletion thing?
You never know. I did have a client that I think was just accidentally dragging things with her trackpad, and so she was like finding mysterious templates in mysterious places, and I was like, whoa. And I was like trying to point her to the breadcrumb at the top. I'm like, that's showing you where it lives, right? And she's like, I never put that there. I'm like, I think you did. I don't think Notion did that, but I'm sure it's a trackpad sensitivity or something like that. So yeah.
There's so many times where I'm playing around with something and then I think of something else to do and I forget, like I was halfway through something and then I come back, I'm like, why is that page there? Or why is there a random table?
What was I doing? Yeah.
Exactly. That's literally the reason I added in the question mark task template. It's like when I change task or do something else, I just add it into, because my task database is on my dashboard. It's like, add the task in. What's the task? Just miscellaneous question mark. Note taking. Both of you, I'm curious. Obviously, Jonathan, I know Jonathan's seen my note taking and how it's developed and how notes feed into everything else. But I'm curious how you guys do note taking. I may go through mine in a minute.
Yeah, I'd love to see yours too.
You can hide mine now. There's not much else to see now.
Yeah, I'd love to see yours, Danny.
Jonathan, do you not take notes?
I do. But mine is very similar to yours.
Oh, is it? Is that just it? You clip it into there and that's it done? Or
so I clip it into there and then I send it to different places depending on what type of note it is. So I have recently started creating little templates which do nothing but otherwise just add like an icon and an area. So I did take the testimonial idea, which is fantastic. And so all of my testimonials are now a note. So instead of having a separate testimonials database, which is what I had before, I literally just have a note and then I tag the testimonials area and it will all appear in the testimonials area.
Very nice.
And with like content ideas and resources and YouTube contents, and then just random thoughts. I often have a lot of random thoughts which don't have a set space to go. So I just tag it with a random thought. It's kind of similar to your question mark task.
It's the same icon.
It is the same icon, yeah, because I just use these because I'm not a designer. And then if I ever want to turn it into like a project or a task, I can just move it into there and it would still have that question mark icon like I would have. So it's kind of just like I take my notes and then I move them to where they need to be. And then if I'm creating content and then I'm inspired by something, then I will use that to create content. But my content creation habits is not the greatest at the moment, but that's why
I was going to say, so what is the process once it's gone into its space, wherever that is? Does each space have its own like process afterwards? Or like, I know for me, if a note goes into YouTube, I know that note is likely to become a video. So there's
it's
a whole
similar thing. Yeah. If it's so what I'm actually thinking of doing is moving all my SOPs into like the notes database as well. And so having all of my SOPs tagged like BizOps or something like that. But yeah, it's kind of similar to you. If it's going to be a YouTube video, it gets tagged with YouTube and then it goes to the YouTube space. And then when I plan my content, when I start planning my content, it just goes from there, and it goes through a similar process to you, Danny, to be honest.
Okay, Liz has put something in chat, and an IT problem usually takes place between the chair and the keyboard.
I love that.
User error. So true. Marie, do you want to go through your note-taking system while I sort out my computer?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably pretty similar to Jonathan as well. Like, I have a place to kind of take my quick notes if I need to, but then I also like this notes and ideas database is connected to, you know, projects and tasks and all sorts of stuff. So I have my process collect and process dashboard here where it's like, oh, right, here's the things I've clipped that haven't been given any next action, haven't been associated with a project, that hasn't been given any metadata. So this is kind of the inbox, right? So I've got Knowledge Hub, Notes and Ideas, and Inbox. Inbox is something like my assistant who now checks my email. God bless her. If there's
it's wonderful, isn't it?
I never thought I would be able to do it, but so she'll kind of elevate anything and kind of put it in here that I might need to see that's important or whatever. So these haven't been processed yet. I think I've got a couple, archived. So once I've like dealt with it or whatever, it's been turned into what it needs to be. Notes and ideas. This is kind of going to round up anything that hasn't been created in the last month, and status is empty. So I think this was how to start a blog that changes your life was a relation, right? So Nat did this deep dive interview with Ali, right? So I thought that was really interesting. So this might be something where I'm like, oh, I want to actually create a piece of content about that. So I might be like, oh, do a deep dive on Notion or whatever. And once I start filling this out and give it a status here, pursue me, create content, reference, whatever. Like I've got a couple different statuses here that will then also appear in my content hub. So the content hub is filtered to show the pursue me and create content and whatever. So I've got a couple different ways that I just keep re-embedding this notes and ideas database in different places around my space. But then every week I try to come here and like this gets cleared out. Like here's a quick one that I took from David Perel about related tweet storms. And it just has this, I love that he actually has a little area on his blog that is related tweet storms. Like I just thought that was just such a neat system. So I'm like, ooh, that's a cool way to think about your content, right? So that's just like a little spark of an idea, but I do need to process that and say, well, okay, what am I doing with this idea? Am I going to create a piece of content around this? Is it, what do I want to do with this? Is this related to my content marketing strategy? And once I fill in that meta, it gets cleared out from this and it's been processed, if you will. So that's kind of one way that I handle my note taking.
So what's the difference between your inbox database and your notes and ideas database?
I mean, inbox literally will be emails, right? So emails from my inbox that my assistant is like, oh, this is an important thing that Marie actually might need to deal with in some way. So she'll kind of add that. And usually that gets deleted. This is like a temporary holding pen. So in some cases, I might actually drag something from here. These are mostly emails, like roundup of, Tuesday's newsletter, whatever. But sometimes if I want to save something, but I don't know if it's like worth storing in my knowledge hub, I might just clip it into the inbox. And then at the end of the week, as I'm doing my reading, it might be an article that I've clipped. I might drag this and be like, ooh, that's actually something I want to keep. And I will elevate that into the knowledge hub and assign it, connect it with a person, add all that lovely metadata to it. Otherwise, I will straight up delete it from the inbox. So this inbox is actually quite small and empty. Like there's not usually more than a handful of things in there. It's the holding pen, if you will.
Cool. Like I have basically the same process, except I don't have an inbox. I treat my notes database in my dashboard as the inbox. So I will share my screen now, because now that I've got it on the right, there we go. So this is like my inbox, because I mean, at the moment my inbox is empty because I went through all the stuff when I came back from football. But essentially it's just filtered for area is empty, and area is like my tagging system. So if I know I'm going to do something with it, I will use a template, and then it will go to whatever the area is, whether that's YouTube, blogging, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, just all around content marketing, whatever. So let's just dummy page. Yes, I know.
That was a bit of an in-joke then.
I said it deliberately to see if you reacted.
Dummy page. Episode 1 of the Notion Nerds podcast coming soon. It really is called Dummy Page.
Yup. Yeah, so these are all the templates that I've got in my notes database, because this is pretty much where everything goes. It either becomes a YouTube video, it becomes a piece of content, and the way I differentiate between the two is a YouTube video is a longer form content, whereas content marketing is everything else. And then a resource, which is typically a longer form note. So that could be like a whole article or a whole podcast or a lecture or something. And the way I distinguish between a note and a resource is a resource normally has notes from it. I'm normally going to get more than one note. And then some other notes that aren't really related to note taking. They're more like, so meeting notes is just a different emoji. That's just a template idea. But what these will do is they'll add an area, so they'll disappear from my inbox. So if we say, I did click on that. I need a new laptop. So actually, I haven't named this either. Thing.
So do you do most of your video planning inside of a note, or inside of tasks and project? I guess your projects.
In my project, yeah. So when my computer decides to wake up, it's because I've got all the databases in here as well. There we go. So whatever the note was. So this is my project database. This is blogging. This is Instagram. This is LinkedIn. You can see from the emojis. And what this allows me to do is batch my content. And essentially like spread the content thin. So this is my note, and this is whatever the note is. I'm going to have to like go way forwards, because as you can imagine, I've planned ahead. Yeah, so I'm planned until like almost the end of November for Instagram and LinkedIn.
Wow.
Yeah. And what I can do from here is then I can click and drag and using the Alt key. So Alt, click, drag, and then I'll drop it in there, and then I'll do the same thing, drop. So I'm duplicating the note, because the note would be the content, whatever that is. Maybe that's an idea or something to riff on, to talk through. This could be like 3 or 4 different lines. So when you there we go. There we go. So I would click, Alt, drag, and drop that into Notion's
And
not like
that becomes a project that you're activating.
Yeah. So because it's text, it now becomes a project in here. But because it's filtered, you can't see the filter because it's filtered, like self-referencing filter for this note. So where was that? That was in blogging, wasn't it? Yeah. And I would do that for all 3, but I'm not going to, otherwise I'll suddenly have like random notes everywhere. And that will be done in like notes processing. So I will attach it to the area, and then it'll go to the area. So I'll clip it and it'll go into my inbox. Then I'll have a look at it. If I decide, yes, that's something I want to pursue, something I want to process, I'll then add it to the template. Then it will go into the areas. Then when the area review comes up, which I will be able to see down here, it will give me a number because of the roll up with the really lovely looking filter for all of my areas. And that is so the roll up works. So every single a day, all of these relations get dumped onto a reminder. But yeah, so I will know the review is due for that area. And the area could be any area. That went blogging, didn't it? So when I come into blogging, I reckon it's because I'm multi-streaming as well. There we go. It's working itself out. It's because my archive is my projects, so it's got to load. There we go, 70 plus however many there are.
Wow.
Plus,
and do you, Danny, have an archiving process too? Because obviously, if you're treating everything like a project and that database is getting pretty big, at the end of the year, will you clear that out, or kind of what, or are you just going to keep building on it?
So I don't know whether you saw, I did a recent speed test in Notion, purely for this reason. So previously I got rid of my tasks because I was worried about overflowing the database. And I stopped doing that about 3 weeks ago. And I thought, you know what, I should probably test how many pages I can have in a database. I made 100,000 pages in a database with 23 properties. And it worked pretty well. I mean, if you scrolled really, really fast, it was like, what are you doing? But it worked well, and I was using databases and everything functioned. So as long as I don't make 100,000 pieces of content in the next year, I should be good. So I think I'm safe, but I think these relation properties make it a little bit like when that starts saying 75,000 plus, it might start being a bit slow, but I don't know until I get there. So at the moment, I don't have an archiving process other than it's just not seen.
Danny?
Yes?
What is that related to copy mess up there on your properties news related to copy of?
Yeah, that was where Notion actually. This is going to sound like I'm blaming
Explain
Notion,
yourself.
right?
Yeah, come on, Mr. Notion Pro.
Yeah, it's a duplicated version of this relation because it's the same database. It's a copy of relation. So I was dragging the projects database somewhere. I can't remember where it was, and I dragged the wrong one, and it duplicated the database. And I thought I got rid of all of these copies, but obviously I haven't. So I'm going to get rid of it now.
Sorry, carry on.
Thank you for pointing that out, John, because
I saw that straight away. I was like, oh my gosh, he's left one in. He's left one in. After his rant on the podcast, after his huge 5-minute rant about it on the podcast, he's left one in. Fantastic. I'm going to pick him up.
I win.
Fair point. Caught me out. That's what happens when you mess around with Notion, a couple of days before streaming. You don't go through it. Yeah, so we were going down to, so this is note filtered for blogging, but most notes don't go into here. So most of the content doesn't come into here. It goes into content planning because it goes over every OS. So every single blog post is also a LinkedIn post and is also an Instagram post, but they'll be on different days, but they're all related to the same note. So the note will have 3 projects. It's going to be the next month. Now you can see how planned out I am. There we go. There it is. So it's now a project. We come into here. It should have. I wrote something, I believe, below it.
So how many pieces of content overall for one chunk of content? How many different smaller assets do you end up creating out of that one piece?
It's very dependent on what the piece of content is. So if it's a video, it will have the YouTube video plus at least 3 other posts, normally 4 because it'll also go on to, so you have LinkedIn, blog, Facebook and Instagram. So that would be the video plus those 4. But then it can also be linked elsewhere. And because my projects database is linked to itself, I have backlinks in my projects database. You can see here to and from. So I can link my blog post, I can relate it to a video. So I know how many pieces of content I have going to a video or going to a blog or whatever. So I don't touch the from relation. That's just for me to see what links where. But if this blog post, for example, was to go to a video, I can then go into the relation because this is the projects database and it will give me every single project I've ever done. So I could link a blog post to another blog post, which is what I do for my monthly summaries. I could link a blog post to a video, which is normally where I would go. There we go. Notion's caught up. Because my videos are pillar content and the posts are sort of shorter, sort of dispersing content. But yeah, so once I've made this, so you can see it's already got content marketing and blogging. So you've got the 2 area tags. So it will show in the blogging space, but also content marketing. There's that note that we created in the dashboard. So it's related to the note. And this note could have a higher note from that. So when I go into there, that would be related to notes. So I can track essentially wherever it came from. So I use this example because it's the easiest one. The Parrot article from Tiago. The Parrot article is a resource. The P is a note. A is a note. R is a note. A is a note. But then inside A, there's more notes. And then inside that, there's actually a couple of other notes. A couple of those notes have gone into flashcards, and a couple of those notes have gone into content. So I can go into that video and go, okay, where's that from? Go to the note, go to the note, go to the note, go to the article. And it's all linked through. Yeah, and then come in here. Oh, I did click and drag, honest. I'm going to have to do it this way. There we go. And then this is a blog, isn't it? Yeah, so I click on the blog template. And then Notion thinks about it a bit more. And there we go. So there's the SAP tasks already ready and raring to go. And then when Notion catches up, there's also a task database below it. And then because this is my project, my script is in here. So this is kind of like a placeholder task for scripting that will appear on my dashboard. And then when I go, because this task is related because of the self-referencing filters, it will be related to this project. So I'll click on the task, click through to here, and then I'll script it out. And then I can create it and then publish it. And that's what happens for a blog post. Come on. So we go back to, let's do it that way. Go back to dashboard. You can see that process would be with the live streams. I feel like Notion's being slow because I'm streaming everything. It was much quicker on your side. There we go. So this is the live stream. I don't know if this is going to be linked to. Well, I know it's going to be linked to a project. I don't think it's going to be linked to a note though. So this is the project state. This is the task database, but it's linked to the projects there, so I can see it. This is actually something that Jonathan may be interested in. This is my teamwork area. So Jonathan and I, with the podcast, have our own like area. Well, it's its own area in my space. So I've tagged it here. So this shows up in the teamwork space as well as content marketing and YouTube, because obviously this is a YouTube stream. And then I can go into the project. Is there anything else in here? No, because there's nothing needed. So it's literally like a placeholder to go into the live stream here, which essentially, if this was a video or a blog post or any piece of content, this would be where I script it. And this is essentially like the archived version of whatever the content is. I don't think there's going to be any notes in here at all. No, there isn't. So this is the episode list because it's linked to so this isn't a database in my space. This is a database in a teamwork space, but I've linked it here. So I can see, live stream, we've got Roxana's coming on next week. I don't know if she's still in chat. She normally is. We got Teresa's on 25th. Then we got, there is a stream. I can't remember who was on that one. That's like in a month's time, so I haven't processed through that one. But you can see here, team calendar. So it's related, like that's a self-referencing filter, which is kind of like one of those irritating things. I needed like another relation for that calendar for the task, which kind of like pads it out. But yeah, and then I can go, so you can see all the tasks for the stream. Yeah, and then with the note taking, should I? Yeah, I guess let's go into content marketing. I haven't looked at this yet, so this is probably going to be quite busy with a load of ideas because I haven't processed them. But this will give you an idea as to like how many pieces of content I've potentially planned for. Yeah, I'm going to. Sorry?
And we will be absolutely terrified.
So this is every single piece of content that I have going out over every single platform.
101.
I'm not going to touch it because I know it's going to like fiddle around. Yeah, I still can't scroll.
Wow.
Come on. There we go. There we go. So this is filtered for any note for content marketing. So these are notes that I can make any piece of content. Well, okay, my hands are up there. Any piece of content for. And this is sorted by the day I made it. So you can see April 18th. So actually, I've got like a month's worth of ideas still waiting in the wings. And these are all different ideas. These are all linked with like different spaces, different areas, notes and stuff made. But these are all 1, 2, 3 pieces of content. And I do have a calendar down the bottom. Oh, did I scroll quick enough? I think I did. To stop the load. Yes, so you can see. I'm trying to show you the month. There we go. So that's the month of content. So you've got all of these are projects. So this is my projects database, and you've got the progress, which is going on here, and then you can see everything that's going on. And these are all related to notes, which are all came from my inbox. So inbox capture the note. A lot of like my blog posts are inspired by other blogs, like Seth Godin's blog. So I'll clip the blog into my notes database, then it'll go into the blogging, and then I can process that, and then eventually it will turn into something here. And then my review process is great fun with my blogging. I guess you'd call it a review, but essentially I go through all of the blog posts that I posted that month, because they're all projects, and then I duplicate them out. So I have my script already written for that whole month because they're all pages. All the scripts are already in the pages. If I go into last month's summary, Notion really doesn't like me.
Too much shit talking.
Come on.
Yeah, you've been too horrible about Notion. You horrible person. You.
Like when I'm not streaming, it's perfectly fine and it runs really, really quickly. As soon as I start streaming, it starts to get a little bit like antsy. There we go. There's the August summary. And this is kind of a similar process to how I wrote my dissertation. I'm going to do a video on that, but that's like there's so much that went on in my dissertation. I have no idea how I'm going to make that shorter than like half an hour, to be honest. But I'm going to try. I'm going to make this page bigger, otherwise it's going to be all squished. And Notion's thinking about it again. But yeah, so with the linking content, what do you think about that from like your aspect, like looking at the backlinks? Do you see what piece of content goes where, or like how do you track? Do you track, I guess, content that you put out? Either of you?
Me or Jonathan?
Either of you. I mean, I don't want to give Jonathan another low blow, but
I probably use a content calendar the way you use your projects. It's very similar, right?
That's how
yeah. And I can see like related posts, and the emoji tells me, oh, that was like the email newsletter that went out related to it. Here's the blog post that I sent out. Here was the tweet that I sent out. So they're all related to the same piece of content. I think it's pretty similar to you're just treating it like a project instead of a chunk of content, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's kind of like personal preference, me having them as projects. I mean, I think it's mainly because I have so much set up with my projects database that I was like, do I really need another one? But I mean, you can obviously do it either way. So I was playing around with this, so I may have some random stuff. No, it's just that one thing. I don't know what that is. But this is filtered for this month, as you can see. That's when I started it. And that's the end of the month. And what I can do is, I'm not going to do it because Notion will like Notion will not like, yeah. I'll click and drag across all of them. I will alt drag and drop them in here. And then so I'll have duplicated pages. And then because it's all highlighted, I'll turn them into text. So it will say copy of "Is digital worth it?" at the top, and then it'll have the content of that page, which is the script, because my projects have scripts in, and then essentially I have the whole month's worth of blogging all written out, and then I can go through and then take out bits that I want, and you can see this is like the end product essentially of it, and this is linked because I store my links to the blog. So part of my publish routine is I put the URL of whatever the post is, whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, whatever, and it comes into here, so I can copy it from here and then paste it onto the words in the script. then when I copy this from here and paste it into WordPress, I already have the link, and the link already goes to the blog. So I don't have to do any of that. So all the backlinks are done from here. All the scripting is done from here. And it was a really quick process. And I did very similar. It was a very similar process with all like the lit review and the articles and stuff, because I had all my notes from the articles here. And then I was just like, oh, let's just duplicate them, turn them into text, because that way I still got all the stuff saved, but I've got the notes that I want out of it here so I can process.
So are you copying and pasting something to make that list on the left, or do you make the copy on the left that gets added into the right? I wasn't totally clear on.
So when I generate the page, it'll have tasks, which are just like the tasks for the blog post. Then this projects database is filtered for this month. So to contains August summary. That's because that's what I've linked it to the project. And then I'll probably do it with one.
Like the digital tools can help you with information collection, blah, blah, blah. Like where's
this coming from?
Yeah.
So these are the blog posts, because it's the project database. So they're just all the blog posts that are related to August summary, which I filtered for like August 10th to 31st, and it's just all of those posts.
But it's more the copy on the left. I'm curious what your process was in terms of like, are you writing that stuff on the left, I guess after your posts are written, and you're just summarizing it on the left? Is that?
Yes. So once I've turned it into it's going to bring the stuff in eventually. Once I brought it in, because the script is already there, I can read through the script and then take out bits that I don't want, or maybe add things that I've learned since writing it, so I can link it. So for example, with the digital tools thing, that was on the 10th of August, but I didn't write this until the 25th. So I can then add to those notes or review those notes, or like take bits that I wanted from it. Whoa, wow. That just didn't like whatever I did. So I'm just going to delete that.
And how much detail do you go into with your scripts? Like how scripted, I guess, are you?
So my blog posts are very, very short, because my blogs are essentially my journal. So it's just one note. So this blog post, I mean, my blog posts are very, very short. They're not long essay newsletters, because even though it is content, I'm not doing it for the sake of people reading it. Like if they want to read it, they can read it. It's more like, this is a note I've taken. These are my thoughts on this note. If you're interested, have a look. If you're not, don't. Very similar to like Seth Godin. So I'm not actually in the project yet, am I?
Yeah.
Where has the...
Oh, it's broken. It's done this to me recently.
That is interesting. I have no idea where that project's gone. I haven't had a look at it since. Maybe that's why it didn't generate it. Let's have a look. Let's go further down the line, because I know there were scripts in them. Obviously, because copied out there. So I would have...
I watched you do it as well, because you showed me a while back.
Yeah, there you go. That's what it would have looked like. I have no idea what's gone on with the other one. But yeah, so this is what it would look like. And that is the whole script of the blog, because the blog is just like a really small idea. If they were longer blogs, it would be the same process, rereading the blog post. Yeah, does that clear it up?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of worried now. Like, what else has been lost? Is it just that one?
Probably that one, because you dragged it out. And I had a thing recently where I tried to create something 2 or 3 times, and then for some reason Notion just went and then kind of froze up and then lost it. If you go into your page history, you're fine. You can get it back again, so it's not the end of the world, but it can do that sometimes.
Okay, yeah, there's 2 of them that disappeared. I mean, I've got this as a blog anyway, so it's kind of backed up as the blog. But yeah, that's interesting. I'll have to keep an eye on that, because if that's something that continues to happen, don't know what's going on with like Project Archive potentially. But then, I mean, it's all saved on, all the videos are saved on external hard drives and everything else and the rest of that. But yeah.
It's like mission critical stuff should probably not only live in one place anyway.
Yes. Yeah, I think even though I don't have a backup of my space, everything that's in my space is somewhere else as well anyway. So like all the content's online anyway. So if I lose it in Notion, I'll have it online wherever it is, and I can copy and paste it back in if I need to. All the video, like hard files and stuff, that's all external hard drive. I don't know whether you have like a quotes page, a daily quote. I'm curious to see what yours is. Like this is what I've done. It's part of my flashcards database. So I have a quote that, like, I have a cycle of quotes that will appear. So tomorrow it'll be a different quote. But that's manipulating my flashcards database for space repetition and the rest of it. I mean, I can show you the formula and how it works. Actually, this might be probably the only and best stream I can explain how this works. Because the actual process of getting that to work was so finicky. Because let's do it. Let's do it. Because this is going to be Notion nerdy.
It is so nerdy. I love it.
Right. So this is my flashcards database, and it's got loads of flashcards in it as well. This is just filtered for quotes. So I have a C reference, which is count page. So I have a page called count page specifically for counting how many quotes I have, because you can't like roll up in its own database. So what I've done is I've related every single quotes page to the count page. And then with the count page, you'll see essentially that's where this is. So in the count page, you'll have every single quote. And then rolling up that in the counts page. So actually, do I have a view with the count page in? I don't think I do. Why do I have the white and nerdy parody song going around in my Torrents thing?
I love it.
Actually, I think I got rid of most of my flashcards recently because I've moved them into elsewhere. So I may be able to just go all. I'm going to fingers crossed and hope that I did get rid of the flashcards. I think I did. Oh, okay. Yes, I did. There's like two in there left. I don't even know what those flashcards are. They're probably like really old. Yeah, they're really old flashcards for when I was like practicing like elevator pitching and stuff. But yeah, so this is the count page. So every single quote is related to this page. This page has like no other data in it. It's literally just there to count the quotes. Then so it's not related to itself. Otherwise, it would add one more, and like I don't want to have one more. And then we have all of those relations coming in here, which is why it's the two-way relation. Then I have the Q total, so it's got 10. So it's 10 total quotes, but it's actually not. It's 9 because it's just the way the roll-ups and stuff work. And then what I've done is Q total minus 1, so we've got 9, and then everything else shows 1. Then when we go into, this is going to be so nasty because I'm going to have the rest of the flashcard stuff in there as well. Yeah, so when I go into here, I can then use this. So where is it? The quotes bit stops there. Yeah, that bit. That bit is the quotes. The rest of it is the flashcards. And what that's basically doing is saying, if like look at all of the cards, however many there are. There's 9, and then like either add a day or keep it to where it is, depending on. I can't really explain this the way that it makes sense because there's so many like ifs and buts in it. But essentially, right, you know what? Let's just go through it. So we've got date between now and like the date of the quote. So it's looking at the date, like the days between it, and then it's using a mod of the quotes. So it's like it's modding how many quotes there are and then working out how many are left over. If there's nothing left over, then it needs to go back to the beginning of like the cycle of however many quotes there are. So if there's 7, like it will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then go back to 1. Then when I add a quote, because of the relation and roll-up setup I've just gone through, the 9 will turn into 10. And then instead of it going like, well, it will go to 8 because that's the example. It will go to 8. So it'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then it'll go to 8 and then go back to 1 because of the mod. And I'm using the formula copy of the quote, in there so that it runs through and then goes back. And then this is just like to make sure that all of that works and it doesn't like redo the same quote, essentially. And all that means is when I add a quote, all I need to do is, well, I don't need to actually put that tick box in because that's in the template. I don't need to make the relation to wherever it is there because that's in the template as well. The emoji is also in the template. So all I need to do is add the date in. So if we go back to the quotes, you'll be able to see like the rolling quotes that go through. Every time I look over the screen, Jonathan's like almost like eating the screen. Yeah, so you can see here we've got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then goes back to 4. Even though it's like 25th of September, it like goes back to 4, and then it will cycle through again and again and go through. What are you giggling at?
Yeah, I just saw Homesick Mac put, and he just put, okay, the nerdiness has almost reached the scenario where two guitarists discuss strings and pickups, preamps and amps. Yes, it has.
Yeah. And then to make it even nerdier, obviously I have it filtered on my homepage to just show the one. And this is something that I had to explain to Jonathan, right? I have made this column wide enough so that it shows the one rather than the new next to it. So I can actually have a longer quote here because I've made the column just wide enough, but not too wide. So if I push it any wider, this new will come up here, and then it's like 2 small things. So it means I can have a longer quote going through. And then because every quote only has 1 day, review is on or before today, and then quote is ticked. So I always have one quote that shows up on my dashboard. And whenever I add a quote, all of that is automatic. So all I need to do is add the quote in, and then it gets shoved at the front of the line, and everything else gets bumped back 1 day. Yeah, that was really nerdy. Marie, how do you do your notes? Your quotes?
I definitely do not use my quotes in that way. My quotes are more reference for blog posts and things like that. And on my Marie HQ, I just have like 3 kind of statements that are meant to be inspiring. So like that seems like a lot of effort to get a daily quote of the day, but I love that you love that. I love that it works for you.
It was a lot to set up, but now it's easy.
No, I kind of use them as inspiration, content. Some of these have covers. A lot of these are pulled from Readwise. So when I'm reading a book, sometimes I'll like copy paste stuff in there. It's tagged, so again, I can like jump into specific posts and jump around. But yeah, it's not meant to be like, oh, serve me something to reflect on today. I think probably because I use Readwise, and Readwise does that. So there's like that sort of daily email that kind of gives you something to look at. So I don't really use Notion in that way, but this stuff is stuff that I pull, right? It's like pulled from a book. I know it's tagged. I know who it's with. And then I also know if did I share that on social or not? So I can kind of filter that to say like, oh, I already know that I shared this thing on Instagram or what have you. So that's kind of how.
So once you've shared something, do you share it a second time, or is it sort of just left?
Well, like when I share it, it's usually like I'm sharing a visual graphic of it, usually on Instagram. So it's like I wouldn't want to share the same visual quote more than once. So that's just a way that I know that I've talked about this topic before. I've like mentioned it. I've specifically kind of shared that quote in a blog post or whatever. Not to say it couldn't appear in a blog post again, but I just want to make sure that I haven't like visually stamped it somewhere.
Okay. So do you go back to your like previous posts and review them and go, oh, I could add this to this now, or I would change this in this way? Or do you sort of just leave them in the past? And
that's a question. I leave them in the past, but I'm sure it would be good to go back to old blog posts and kind of like either clean them up or add to them. Oh.
Yeah, because that's something that I do with because my areas are reviewed. I review everything that's in them. So when I go through a review, I'll go through all of the past posts. And some of the content ideas have come from me looking at past posts, whether they're videos, whatever, and going, I have a different view on this now, or I have an updated view on this now, and then that then becomes like a new piece of content. So I can relate it to the previous because it's same database, but it means I have like an updated version. So my my weekly, I was talking about this to John actually before stream, my weekly agenda video that I did with the board and calendar linked, that was a really like hashed together solution to something. I was like, oh, this sounds cool. Let's just make it and put it into a video. And there were so many like bugs. I'm going to say bugs in there. Like I hadn't really taken into account all the stuff of actually using it because it was just more of a concept video rather than an application video.
Mm-hmm.
And I've changed that so much. Like the template works pretty well, like fine now. But I've worked on that, and people are still going to that video, and they still ask me the same questions because people love to not read the comments of other people, and they make their own comment. So I think I've responded to the same comment 20 something times now. And like going through all like the YouTube stuff and reviewing YouTube. I think I did that yesterday. And I was like, you know what? I've got a new view on this. I've got an updated version. Let's just make that into another video. And then because it's on YouTube, I can then like pin comment, be like, this is the new video. And then all the SEO for that video then also goes to the new video. So SEO works both ways, and I can do the relations going backwards and forwards, reviewing content, etc., etc.
Yeah, my assistant does go through old YouTube comments and whatnot, and she actually does add them. So we have a metrics that we add on the content dashboard. So like 7 days later, and then like 30 days later, and whatever. So she'll actually kind of look, oh, hey, I'm noticing a bunch of people are asking these questions, and she'll also kind of give it another outside lens that even I maybe didn't notice or something. And she'll go and kind of summarize some of that stuff. So I'll definitely do that with YouTube videos, not as much with blog posts, but I do think that's a good thing to kind of, because the weekly agenda is my most popular. It's over 100,000 views now. And it's pretty old too. Like it still doesn't even reflect my most up-to-date system, but it has so many views. I'm like, I should really do a what's happening now in the weekly agenda. That would make sense, right? So that's a great idea to build that into your habit of the reviewing your content. What was most popular? What are people still having questions about? Where were those gaps? And what are those new opinions that have emerged? I think is really valuable.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think we've said it a couple of times. You're never finished with Notion, and it's something that I've sort of said that I'm going to do, but I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. Is like a monthly update. So I've done like a small series going over how my space works. But like every time the video goes out, because obviously I plan it ahead of time, like 2 weeks ahead of time, the video goes out and I'm like, that doesn't replicate my space. But I know if I film it again, by the time it gets published, it's not going to replicate my space.
Yeah.
So I sort of had to suck it up and just like, I've put the videos out because it shows the majority of my space. But like a monthly update video, this is what changed in the month, like 30 minutes later from all the small tweaks and changes that I've made. Like it's some of the small things, like my content template. I'll bring us back. The content marketing template with the three databases at the bottom, that originally just had the one. And I was like, why do I have 3 different templates for essentially the same thing? Why not just put all 3 databases in the same? And it's such a small change, but it was a quick change. Right? And
speeds.
I can't do a whole video on that. It's like I
you
can't
can do a quick tip, one of your daily quick tips. I
could have made a blog post about that, or a LinkedIn or something.
Or even like rounding up quick changes. It could be like 5 quick changes I've made in my space that have like just kind of sped things up. You could kind of like aggregate them maybe.
Yeah, definitely. And something else that so with my notes, I noticed Jonathan shared like testimonials, and so with my notes, I was going to make like a testimonials database, but then I was like, can I put this in somewhere else? And I can within my notes database. So all of my notes have a URL attached to them because most of them are like blog posts or YouTube videos or something. And I was like, can I just use that URL property as a text property? So whenever I have a testimonial, I'll put in the URL testimonial, and then I can filter for URL contains testimonial.
Wow, so that's so nerdy.
And I've actually taken it like a step further, and I'm using it as my hashtags as well for Instagram. So I have all of my hashtags are in my notes database, but they have hashtag written in URL.
Wow.
So my notes database is now serving as my high up resources, my normal notes, my video ideas, my content ideas, my testimonials, hashtags.
Like so everything.
it's doing
So even
much.
like books that you're reading and things like that, everything just kind of goes into the notes.
Reading books. If I did read books, yes. Yeah, I've tried reading books. It was even in my impossibles list. Like I put it in there. I was like, I'm going to read. I think I said I'm going to read. I think it was like I didn't put a page number or a book number to it. I think I said I'm going to read every day for like 2 months, something like that, and I did. But as soon as that finished, I stopped reading.
Like I know I can do it, but I don't want to do it.
Pretty much. So I actually had this discussion recently on LinkedIn with, I can't remember who it was, someone. But I was saying that video is the best way outside of just talking to someone. It's the best way to have a conversation because you see the body language, you can feel the emotion that they're trying to put across. Exactly. And like with a book, obviously you don't have audio or visual, so it's your own words. And with audio, you don't have the visual, so I feel like it's sort of like a stepping stone.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm half deaf, so audio never has been like my favorite thing. And reading to myself, it's really hard. I don't know why, it just is. I just don't like it. So being able to see what's going on, I can feel the emotion just by watching it. But then I'm listening to it anyway. But yeah, I like to be able to see what's going on, like see either the faces, the hand. Like I talk with my hands. Like I try and keep them below the camera so you can't see them. Anyone that follows me on Instagram, like my stories, it's so hard because I'm holding my phone and I'm like I want to, but I start talking. My phone.
You need like a
moving.
holder so you can do your thing.
I need to figure out. I've seen some people in their stories and they record themselves, but they're not actually like recording. And I'm like, how do you push the button? But you're not. I assume it's like a video or.
There's a hands-free option.
I need to find that. Because like whenever I'm doing my stories, I'm like, don't move your hand, otherwise you just look like you're all over the place. Don't move it. And I'm like, and this hand suddenly just goes erratic. I'm like trying to do 2 hand movements with one. It's But yeah, so that all stemmed from reading. Wow, tangent much.
Well, I know I struggle if I'm on a client call with someone where a client is like super deadpan and not very expressive. Like I can't work with people that aren't pretty excitable like myself. So it's really hard when someone's like giving you nothing to work with. You're like, nothing? Anyone? Bueller?
The worst one for me is when they have their video off.
Oh,
and I'm just like, oh, how are you responding to this? I don't like. I respond to how people are reacting to me. I can't do this. I know that Danny agrees with me, so I'm keeping on going. Like if someone has their camera off, it's horrible. I hate it.
You can't see when their eyes are glazing over. Like, come on,
yeah. Oh, I don't like the camera off, which is funny considering earlier when I had to vanish out the door, I did turn my camera off. But that's beside the point.
Yeah, but that was a good reason. There was a good reason for that.
That's fair. That's fair.
So there's like, I can't remember his name. The person that you did with the freelancer live stream.
Ben Nissenman?
Yes, that's the one. He said, so Jonathan and I had a bit of a joke about this afterwards. But he said that there aren't any funny Notion YouTubers.
Oh, yeah. You need to come on this stream.
He said funny, not nerdy, you guys. Come on.
Yeah, good point.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
We think we're funny. No.
That hit me.
Right in the
face. Savaged it. I know we're not funny. I don't try to hide it. You're like, I think I'm funny. No, you're not. We're not funny, which is.
Oh my gosh. So I'm taking a conversion comedy course right now, right? And I'm like alone in the Zoom chat, like cracking up, making jokes, and it's like nothing. Like nobody else is making jokes. I'm like, what? How aren't we here? Because we're okay. Apparently not. I'm not funny.
Yeah. Wait, it's actually funny. Oh, Jonathan was going to say something. I see.
Okay.
What?
No. Okay, fine.
I'm surprised that no one's cracking jokes. I would take full advantage of cracking jokes in that environment. That would be
right. You're like, this is a safe space. We're allowed to make jokes. Silent.
Boring.
That's something that I've experienced with like starting the live stream when I first English words speak. When I first started live streaming, there we go. Like I was really nervous for like the first 10-20 minutes, and then sort of got into it, and there weren't many viewers, and I was like, fine. But like Torin, I can see Torin in chat. Torin's been here like the whole way through, and I think a couple of others as well. But like having a couple of people when you're streaming, it's just like, okay, it feels comfortable knowing like there's somewhat some interaction.
Yeah.
Because like when you're streaming and there's no one else on stream, essentially you're just talking to yourself, and like fingers crossed people like it or listening or getting something. Yeah, you're like, give me some feedback. I can't see you. Like I can't see what your reactions are.
Type things with your words. Yeah,
exactly. Which is like I've since live streaming, I've sort of made it like a principle that if I'm in a live stream, I have to like acknowledge, like when the person says, "Can you see?" I don't sit there and go, "Oh, someone please." Like I'm the one doing that. I'm like, "Yes, we can hear." Just those small things, because otherwise, like I know on like this end, you're like, "Are we good? Are we not good?"
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's go ahead.
With the monetizing of Notion. Obviously, I know you're doing a crowdcast series. Jonathan's like settling in for this one. So with the monetizing of Notion, I'm curious. I gave you a really harsh question in there with the doomsday. What happens if Notion goes? But when it comes to positioning yourself in a niche, so I'm actually planning on doing a video for like how I've done it with Notion, like earning something with Notion. And I think it would be interesting for those people watching if they want to do it. Like, how would you go about positioning potentially a business or building something from Notion like what you've done? I'm curious myself. Maybe others in chat are interested. Like
how to go about building a whole business, or like kind of a business.
Yeah, like would you like obviously Notion in itself, like productivity is this thing. Then you've got apps, then you've got digital management, and you've got Notion, and inside Notion, it's like, okay, what discipline?
Yeah, so, there's so many different angles you can take to so many different. Like for me, it was a natural fit in a way. I was already doing project management, and I already work with my clients in terms of. I'd gotten most of them onto Asana. I'd gotten most of them using Evernote, teaching them how. Like I was already. Even though it wasn't technically part of my job, like I was helping people with basically designing their digital ecosystems, their product and service ecosystems. A lot of it was user experience design, it's web design, it's setting up automations, it's systemizing, smoothing out processes. So inevitably part of that was helping my clients get their own shit together. So it kind of made sense where I was like, oh, you should be like, let's get you onto Notion, let's do this. So it was kind of a natural evolution. So I think wherever you can plug it in to something that you're already doing, like with Mac, if he's got his song library or music library, are you showing other musicians how to organize their songs? Is it selling a template related to that? Is it combining it with a consultation? So I think wherever you can lean on your existing kind of natural skill set, for me, it in a way I shifted from doing all the behind the scenes work of like, I guess the business behind the scenes to more of the individuals behind the scenes processes. So it was still very similar in a way. It's just process design, but it just looks a little bit different. So in some ways, even though everything took a left turn and it's all Notion, it's still really about workflow design and process development, which I was kind of already doing. So
is workflow design like a niche? I've seen a couple of people on LinkedIn have like digital workflow insert something. Is workflow a niche, or is that because it seems like workflow is so broad because obviously everyone is different?
Yeah. So I mean, I guess.
Are you like Notion workflow expert?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, that's what I've been doing for folks. I don't necessarily always name it as Notion workflow consultant. Like I don't necessarily always approach it with that term, but that's kind of what has emerged. Yeah.
I never. One thing I don't know about you, Marie, whether you found this difficult as well, but naming yourself, like what you do is not just Notion. It's not just workflow design. It's also a little bit of tech. It's also a little bit of coaching. It's also a little bit of
systems design. Yep.
It's like so many different things that I have just accepted the monkey of nerd.
Yeah.
Because
it's a challenge to be able to like find the right words and then who's asking, right? So I think I've always kind of struggled with that because I definitely am a little bit of a generalist. Like I have the design background, but there's also the strategy background. There's the permaculture and systems. Like there's so many different pieces that it's about like making an experience delightful for someone else, for like a customer buying a service, but then it's also making the person delivering the service that their own lifestyle and the way they're organizing their information is also delightful as well. So there's these themes and these elements, and it takes a while, I think, to find like what is that thread that kind of ties all of your work together. So I often tell people, maybe don't worry too much about what it's called in the beginning. Focus on being helpful. Focus on who you can assist. And if you know a niche really, really well, like, you know, coaches, right? Like I've worked with so many online coaches and people who are delivering online courses. That became the niche that I worked with. So it was, let's set up your automations and how do people actually sell and deliver their online courses. So you get to know these pieces really, really well that then you can apply in different ways. So yeah, it's been a bit of a bizarre journey. But yeah,
it's like I'm struggling at the moment, obviously coming out of being a student. Technically, you're always a student, lifelong learners, all that sort of stuff. But like, so people are asking me, so what are you doing? Because they know I'm getting income, and I'm like, well,
do they mean how are you paying your bills?
It's like, well, I'm a coach and a creator and an entrepreneur, and like that's what I've gone with, because I coach, but I coach so many different things, and I'm a creator, but in so many different ways. It's like.
But I think that's part of the process, right? Like, because you said you just graduated and this new economy is emerging too, like you're in the process of finding your niche, right? Like you might work with people over the course of 2-3 years and you're like, oh man, these are my people. Like I love doing this kind of work. And I don't think you can skip that awkward gray zone time where you're like working with a bunch of different people and being like, what did I really like about that project? Or like, ooh, I really didn't like that type of person. And like, I realized I don't like working with really corporate clients. I want more creativity, more fun, people that are a little more like easygoing, not having to follow very specific rules and branding guidelines and whatever. So there's lots of people who are super great at that stuff. I'm like, go hire my friend Alex over here. That's not my jam. But you can't figure that stuff out until you've done that work and been like, ooh, yeah, that doesn't work for me. And it's like a self-discovery process, right? Where you're figuring out like who are your people, and also where your like zone of proficiency and all of your strengths totally line up, that everything is like, yes, this is what I'm naturally good at. It's what people are willing to pay for, like that whole ikigai, the center. Yeah. It takes so long to find that stuff. So I think you got to give yourself permission to be in that like awkward space where like, how do I describe what I do and who do I work with? I don't know. I think everyone needs a little bit of that runway to play with that a little bit, and you'll find it.
You mentioned automations. So I had a conversation recently with someone I didn't have a conversation. It was in a comment section of a YouTube video. And they use Todoist for their task management. They use Notion for knowledge management, and then you use ClickUp for their team. Yep. That's their workflow. That's their choice. Their YouTube channel is specifically for like tools. So they've explored lots of things. And their reason for not using Notion for automation, for using Notion not for project management, was automation. And the only thing that I've got back so far from this individual is that the Kanban board, when you move the Kanban board across, you can't make a task for like whoever it's for. So I think the workflow that he showed, it was like 20 seconds in the video. So it was very, very quick, but it was like moving the project from like scripting to editing. And when the editing, they wanted the editor to know that
automatically.
Yeah.
Why would they not embed a Kanban board in that person's dashboard where it's like, show me everything that is marked to edit? And
that's what I responded. And they haven't responded yet. But I was going to say, like, is that like your approach? Obviously, you work with a team, so I was like, I know how I would approach it, but I don't know if it would work.
Yeah, I mean, those are the kind of things. Tell me what you want to have happen. And there's always a way to design it, usually with filters. So let's make sure that we'll then filter out this piece on that person's, like I usually recommend each team member should have a dashboard, right? And tasks are filtered to that person, or it's anything anything assigned to me and or contains to edit, right? Because then they can assign it to themselves. Like there's always a way to do it, but most people don't know how to design it. And I think that can be the trouble with Notion. It's like, it doesn't work out of the box, which means you have to design your own system, which is very frustrating for some people and incredibly exciting for other people. So I can understand that if that's like a gap and someone couldn't figure it out, that's going to feel very frustrating. And they're like, screw it, we'll just use this other tool that does this out of the box. But it's a shame. It's kind of too bad because there's just so much flexibility, right?
I think, I don't know about you guys, but I think filters are like the most underrated aspects
Yeah.
of databases, because
Yeah.
like, linked databases are great, but without filters, you're just going to get like, like without filters, my task database would be disgusting, and my notes.
Yeah, and even the ability, again, when all the filters are in there and you're adding a new task with a template, you're just already like spinning up so many, like I've heard so many funny comments, and I'm sure you get this too. It's like, oh my God, that takes forever to like fill out all those properties. I'm like, I don't fill those out manually. I click a template and they're all filled out. Like, come on, people, that's the magic. But if people don't know that, they just think, oh, everyone's spending so much time for every single task. You can't do task management in Notion. And I was like, you, sir, are wrong. You are wrong, and I will tell you why. Don't get me started.
It's so hard not to like. I feel like really defensive when people say Notion's not good for task management. I'm like, really? Really?
Somewhere out there, Danny is face palming. You're like, let me tell you a thing or two about it. It does take more.
Oh man, he is raging. Normally,
It takes more setup. It takes more really core understanding of Notion, and that can certainly be hard in a team setting. If you've got like one person who's like super excited to bring the team over to Notion, then you have other people that are like, this doesn't work the way I expect. So I do recognize that learning curve is pretty huge for a team, for sure. So that is going to happen. I think that's going to be, Notion's biggest challenge really is like, how do you get enterprise teams on board in a way that is like shrinking that learning curve? And it's tricky because the templates alone don't typically work super well unless you do have some of those relations. So it's like, well, then so like just all of that setup, it does take a bit of time, but I think some companies are more willing to invest in that customization aspect of it than others.
Yeah, there's definitely a learning curve. I don't like the word can't anyway. I try to avoid using it. And when people say you can't do that in Notion, I'm like, I'm just going to build it just to prove you wrong.
Watch this. Yeah. Hold my beer.
The amount of times I've made, like all the stuff that I've made in my free example thing, basically someone has said, you can't do this in Notion. I'm like, give me 10 minutes. Right. Made it, copy link. There you go. Yes, you can. And then they go, they try and pick a hole in it. And I just like add a filter or just add a relation. Like, there you go.
Notion doesn't do everything super well, but like for the tiny things it doesn't do well, I'm willing to accept these like weird little quirks because of the 95% of awesomeness that it does in these other ways. Every tool we know has their weird failings and things where they come short. And for some people, there's going to be deal breakers like recurring tasks in Notion. I was like, well, there's so many other ways I can work around that I found that it takes me 30 seconds instead of a second, like whatever. I'm willing to deal with that because there's just so much else that it improves in my life that it's worth it to me. So you kind of got to pick and choose your shit sandwich, basically.
With recurring meetings, do you have any recurring meetings?
Do
you do them in Notion, or do you have a calendar app for it? You do it in Notion?
I mean, all of my meetings are for sure in my calendar, but I do also always make it's a task and the type is event. And we have like a team meeting every Monday, and it's got a pretty, serious template that references review the big vision, check out the metrics, blah, blah, blah. And my assistant goes in and pulls in metrics from elsewhere, embeds the databases inside of that note. And so as we're talking, she actually will like drag things into the master task database while we're talking as well. So we kind of operate out of that task, if that makes sense.
I've just dropped Jonathan down because Jonathan doesn't do that in Notion.
You don't have events in Notion.
Yes, I do. I do have my events.
Are you going back on what you said then?
No, I do have my events in Notion. I have the meeting notes inside of Notion. It's the same thing, let's be honest. It's been called something. It is an event. I do have a separate events database though. That is where where I am different to both of you.
Yeah, I used to do that too. So it's a recent experiment to just treat it like a task now. So that is something that is kind of for the last month, I've been experimenting with just including it in my task database instead of a separate events database. So jury's still out on whether or not I stick with that.
Ha! You need to go down the bottom now.
No,
Demoted.
I'm in charge of the stream. I'm curious, Jonathan. Can you like share that workflow as to what it looks like in a meeting?
Yeah, sure.
I haven't put you on screen because you're black. There we go.
So basically, obviously, I've got no meetings today because I ticked off the one we had.
Oh, this is a meeting.
So yeah, I know I ticked it off because it's finished.
Is a serious meeting.
It's really not. So let's go into this.
Don't you undermine my live stream?
Look, they're there. It's there. See, look, it's there. Right. So I have a number of templates depending on the type of meeting I've got. There are quite a few different templates, and I am cleaning these up. I'm still just like, oh, these are things that I want to add in and testing and seeing.
Is this one of those like work in progress tasks?
Say again?
Is this one of those like work in progress tasks?
Some of them are work in progress. Some of them are like, I like this now. This feels good. But yeah, so each of these is like a different template. So I have a discovery call where I kind of have like the general purpose, what does it, blah, 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 questions I ask, and recommended next steps. And I think the useful thing for me and why I have it separately is like the recording. I include the recording, share the recording, and I have different properties here. Yes, you could do the same with a task database. Of course you can, but I just like the separation. I like being able to see how many meetings I have in a month, you know, like whether I'm doing too many meetings. Yes, of course I can see it on here. Like, I think it's just a very much a personal thing. I like seeing my meetings separate. I think it is literally that. And then different client calls. So at the beginning of the week, my VA goes through, she looks at my calendar, it is hosted in Google Calendar because all of my meetings automatically get added in via my scheduling tool that I use. And then she comes in, adds them in, and then depending on what it might be, if it's like a console, I have a whole template which goes through the notes, which kind of gives like embeds a feedback form, which adds feedback in, and then adds it to my databases. And just clicked off. What do you want to see in particular?
It was just like, so when you're looking through your notes of a meeting, do you have to go into each like individual meeting to see those notes, or can you just look at all the notes as to where they are?
So I just look at all of the meeting notes inside of the meeting. So when I review them, I come into kind of like I review them on either the same day or the day before. If I want to review multiple notes at once, I kind of have this like events section, which kind of sees more of them. I have a section for like notes. Say, for example, I want to create a note based on one of these meetings. I have that in there. I think I have like that section there. And I just have it this way. You just want to destroy it.
I'm just curious. So when you have like an action that comes from a meeting, I assume you have your task database linked in the meeting.
Yeah, so I have the task databases linked below on most of them, but some of them don't.
Self-reference filter for the event, I assume.
Yeah, self-reference filter for the event. Yeah, basically. And if there's a project relating to it, I have it related to the project as well.
Oh, project relating to the event, not the task.
Yes, yeah.
So how would you link the task to the project? Would you do that manually in the relation?
Yeah, it's just related manually in the relation, yeah. Or actually, I think I do a self-referential filter now, I think.
How do you manage that if it's self-reference to the events? Or do you self-reference it to... Yeah, how do you do that? Because the project isn't in that database.
Sorry?
Because you're in the events database, so you can self-reference for the event, but you wouldn't be able to self-reference for the project, would you?
Unless I used a roll-up. So if a task was related to a project and an event, that's how I would do it that way, I think. I don't know.
How you would do it or how you do it? Are you like, do, sorry. Sorry.
Always with the do.
Pee pee poo poo, now do. Oh, I love it.
Got all our bases covered.
Yes, Jonathan. You've got children, don't worry. You've been through that process.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I've got an extra one with you now. Anyway, beside the point.
Excuse me. I am an adult. I am a mature adult. I'm almost 24.
Yikes.
You're such a baby.
So I have like my task databases linked inside of here, and just normally it's just simple like that. I don't really, and if I have, so one of the things I do have is like, sorry, what?
Narrow view, not wide view.
It's easier to read everything at a glance with a narrow view. I know this is just like, but still.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that, I was like, yeah, don't like it.
I know. I
avoid tables and boards purely for that view. That's why I use list views, just get rid of the bar.
I know the bar is so horrible, but yeah, I don't know.
One of those like nerdy issues that we have. Marie's just like, yeah.
Marie's just like, I'm on a Mac, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, pretty much. I like pretty things. What can I say?
Yeah, I can understand that. Did I answer your question?
To be honest, I can't remember what the question was now.
Meeting notes.
That was it. Actually, I do have a question for you, John, with the clock. Do you actually use it?
Yeah. At a quick glance, yeah. Because I often, this is more when I'm on my MacBook because it hides the taskbar.
Oh, I forgot you do both, don't you?
Yeah, I've got both. So that's when I usually use that. And it's just to have some visual elements so I don't feel so like depressed because I don't have anything pretty on there.
You have like the colored headings.
Yeah, I've been enjoying the colored headings.
And you do have a banner.
Yeah.
You know what you should do? You should make a banner and put it up there.
I should. Yeah, I know, but then I'd actually have to do that. And like
that's true.
I don't no, all the banners I've got were created by my wonderful VA, and she made them for me. And I'm just gonna do that. Like, she makes the really pretty stuff. She didn't make the Notion Nerds icon because I just got really distracted and thought, this is easy. I can just put like the Notion logo over the both ends, and that's really simple. Even I can do something as ridiculously simple as that. But yeah, she makes really pretty stuff.
So I'm curious, Marie, can you guess which emoji goes to the Notion Nerd space?
Could it be the nerdy glasses? Hopefully.
Who did that first? Was that you or me? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
I can't remember. One of us added it to the bar, and the other one added it. I was like, "Yep, it had to be. It had to be." But I think that's like, it's one of those like quirks with Notion is like using emojis or icons. I know you use. Do you use like the same icon set, or are they all from different places? Because I know you've got like the arrow, the circles. Are they all like the same icon set from the same website, or do they go from? Because I know you can. There's different places to get icons.
You're talking to me?
Yes, yeah, because you've got your focus area, you've got your arrows and circles that are filled. Are they all like
Notion minimal icons?
Okay, are they like a package, or do you have to like import each of them individually?
It's a package, and I think you can download them all. They're like SVG or PNG or whatever. And then I just went into Photoshop and made like adjusted versions. So it's like a circle that's filled, and then you got like a circle that's the outline or whatever, and made some color adjustments so that I had more choices. Because that's what I do. Yeah.
Photoshop. Yeah, I don't have that. I got Affinity Photo, which is yet, but my design skills are definitely lacking. Jonathan, do you have any questions? Like, I feel like I've literally just bombarded everyone with questions, and that wasn't my intent. It's just like as soon as people start talking, I'm like, oh, but what about this?
I don't think I do actually. I think I'm fairly familiar with Marie's stuff anyway.
Well, we haven't had any more questions in the form. And I don't think Mike said this is not a meeting, it's a full day event. Well, it's only been almost 3 hours. So it's just, yeah.
We did good.
I'm surprised it was as short as it was.
Yeah, that's true. Right, let's bring all three of us up. I got it right. I think this is the first stream where I've been swapping through and I haven't done the whole infinite zoom thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, I'm getting there, becoming a streaming pro. But yeah, so I think we'll wrap it up there. Before we get to 3 hours, we got match of the days on tonight as well. Football fan, so gonna go down for the highlights. So yeah, is there any? Well, I'd say last words, but last words sound bad. Got any last words?
Final words, boys. Here we go. Well, when can people expect I know you mentioned you've recorded a couple of your podcast episodes. So when does that drop?
End of the
I would
month.
have to look at Notion for that.
It's
What's that? End of the month?
Yeah, provided I know I did only found this out recently, so we might actually have to publish them very soon because it takes about 2 weeks to go into most like.
Oh, gotcha.
So my plan is in the net. I do see. You see, the thing is that he says he's there like this. Still work smarter, not harder, whatever it is. It's basically what that means is that he makes me do all the work. That's what it is.
That's him working smarter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Is it you doing the work, or is it the VA that you've just given all the work to?
Oh, that's working smarter, not harder. There we go.
Yeah, exactly. At the moment, it's me because my poor VAs would probably just cry listening to us talk for as long as we talk.
She's like, do I really have to transcribe this?
Descript.
Yeah, Descript is a magical.
Okay. Yeah. So Gail's put any famous last words. So Marie, do you want to sort of share what you're doing, like YouTube courses, templates, stuff where people can find you?
Yeah, I mean, most of you probably know me, Marie Poulin online, and we're still doing office hours every week and running my Notion Mastery course. I'm trying to talk a little bit more about monetizing Notion and helping people get their templates out into the world. I know a lot of folks mentioned they've been sort of inspired recently, and I just think there's just so many creative possibilities for people to take what they already know about their own existing experience and industries and to just create more resources that can help other people. So I really love that. I love that it can kind of help create these extra revenue streams for people, and just the market rewards creativity. So I love seeing more people shipping their stuff and taking risks and putting themselves out there. So I'm always happy to share those as well. So if anyone has cool templates that they've made and whatnot, I'm always happy to include those in my emails on Twitter. I'm pretty active on Twitter at Marie Poulin. So
I was going to say Twitter's a good place to sort of like
it's a
talk.
good place to chat for sure. Yeah, Instagram is a little more like, these are my plants and my cute puppy. So it depends if you like more of the behind the scenes. You're welcome to follow me there. But most of the Notion conversation happens on Twitter or on my email newsletter. Yeah.
And your YouTube channel is linked.
Oh yeah, that thing too. Oh yeah, YouTube.
we are on YouTube. I know it doesn't look like it, or like on my screen anyway. Sometimes I forget. We're also on Facebook.
We're on another planet. Yeah.
Yeah, also on Facebook. I tried that out. So, but yeah, Jonathan. No, we'll leave Jonathan. Jonathan, any last couple of words?
So, no. You can find me on Twitter, Notion Biz. I have my templates now actually for sale on my website.
Yeah.
See, because for goodness sake, I've kept them hidden for so long because they're so so I'm just trying to ship more things. I'm actually doing, I'm going to announce it here because then it's going to make me do it. I'm actually launching thank you. I'm actually going to be launching a live training which kind of goes behind the philosophy of why I build, why I use pages versus databases, why I choose what I choose when I'm building for clients or for myself. So that's something I'm launching this week. And it's going to be like a live stream which talks about how I do things, and you can join me live, and it'll be slightly cheaper if you join me live versus if you don't, and you can ask me questions. And yeah, so that's what I'm launching.
Sounds good. And that's this week, yes?
Yes.
I assume that's like
we'll be checking in.
I am literally launching it this week, yes, and then it'll be posted in either a week or two's time.
So this is going to be like Notion related. So is your week started Monday or Sunday? Where did your week start?
The ultimate question, yeah.
Monday.
Yeah, Monday.
So I will be launching it this week, and you can sign up to my website on my website for my email list to find out all about that, and I will be tweeting it. Because if I don't, then Danny will too.
Yeah, like next stream, if it's not out, next stream definitely, like it's just gonna be hit.
You get roasted the entire time. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, we got Roxana coming on, and she knows what's going on. She knows what's up. So you'll be getting it from both directions. But yeah, so we will be live next week. I think it's same time, 7 p.m. BST. Same channel. If you have any questions or if you want to come on stream, there is a link in the description. If you want to come on and chat Notion about anything, everyone's open. So until then, I'll see you guys next week. Bye guys.
Everybody.
Bye.